Good evening, Westeros, and welcome to After the Fyre, which is our #1 talk show for all things After the Fyre. Only #1 because there is only one, and it's us. So, hey, let's go around and say who we are and who we play in the show. So I'll start. I'm Susie. I play Miria, who's the best, Queen of Dawn. Don't at me. Charlie, hi.
Hi, and hello to the trash fires, which is why I'm now calling everyone.
Trash fires.
I'm very ready to talk about After the Fyre Crown Lands, which is what I'm calling our overarching world. I'm Charlie. I'm Encounter Roleplay sometimes, and then I'm here as Lady Marzia the rest of the time.
Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom. I play Alfred. That's pretty much it.
Alfred. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing remarkable about Alfred. It's just Alfred.
Nope. Just Alfred. Yep.
Yep. Hi, Don.
Hi, I'm Don. I'm also just a guy. His name is Rob. Sir Rob. And him and Alfred are buddies. Yep. I'm good.
I want to redo my intro and be like, I'm just a girl, and then cut to Gwen Stefani for a brief second.
Hey, that should be on Miria's playlist, I feel like. That's a very Miria energy song.
Yes. What is on Miria's playlist? Before we get to talking about what's just happened, let's talk about Miria's playlist for a second.
Oh boy, I don't know. I haven't updated it in forever. It was a lot of very sad music for a while, because she went through a bit of a time.
Was Papa Don't Preach on that list?
Yeah.
What about that Kelly Clarkson song Breakaway?
There's gotta be
I'll spread my wings and I'll learn how to fly.
There's
I'll do what
some,
it takes.
like, angry songs on there by now, right?
I don't know. It's on Spotify. I'll have to have a look. I wasn't prepared for this sudden inquisition.
I think 3 years from now, I can see Miria with Alanis Morissette.
Uh-huh. What was that? Like, I'm a bitch. I'm a lover. I'm a rebel and a traitor and a spy.
Hey.
Wow, he just keeps going.
You say traitor, but I'm just saying.
Right.
Can't be traitor if you're the rightful queen.
Are you? Are you the rightful queen?
Yeah. I am. Shut up. You can't take that from me. Put me in a dungeon. I don't care. I'll be happy.
We noticed.
Oh, okay. So
Dungeons and Dragons should be the fucking name of that episode when Maker shows up to Ironwood and Miria hasn't been broken out. Dungeons and Dragons.
That's
Sam Webb.
It's too meta.
So we should go back, right?
We should go back. Yeah,
we haven't talked about this season at all, right?
I feel like I feel like what just happened was that beginning of the 80s movie with the record scratch of Miria in a dungeon going. So I bet you're wondering how I ended up here. Well, we're gonna reverse time to the beginning of the season. Fam, what the fuck happened in episode 1? It feels like forever ago, but it was 4 weeks ago.
Was it only 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Oh, it seems so long. That's actually a very good point, because for me, episodes kind of just blend into one, and it's like just one long story for me.
What I recall is that Miria was in episode 1, right?
Yeah.
And so were all of us.
You were in episode 1, Donovan.
I was in episode 1.
I remember.
So at the end of season 2, Oliver dies. Spoiler.
F's in chat.
Sorry if you haven't seen that yet or heard it anywhere. But that happened, and then didn't we keep delaying because we kept having like life shit come up, so we couldn't play. And then Sam's like, right, we're going. We need to get going. And done. You're in.
So
that was a surprise.
From my perspective, not a week before the show had started, I think Don and I had been chatting about Rob because I was painting his portrait, right? And Don's like, but don't worry about it because I'm not going to be on for a while. Like 2 days later, Sam's like, oh, Don's on this week. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So I'm like trying to draw like a bastard to get his portrait done. That was my memory of the premiere.
And it turned out great.
Thank you, Don.
I also remember leading up to the premiere because it hadn't been confirmed who Don was playing. All we had was, well, Susie had a description, and the rest of us had, we know Don and his devious mind. Who would we play if we were in Don's shoes? And there were lots of weird options. And then Susie mentioned he was going to be redheaded. So we went through who were all the redheads in this fucking game. Red Rob was not the top of the list of people we suspected for a while. And then we were on call and we were like, we've got to figure this out. And suddenly I went, Red Rob.
I never heard any of your theories.
No, because we didn't want to tell you.
No, they
That's
were
fair.
quite
I
wild.
deserve that.
I think at one point it was that uncle at Ironwood. You know, what's his name?
Oh, Frederick too?
Frederick.
Oh,
too.
Frederick too. Frederick too was a possibility. But then I dismissed that once I got the description. I was like, he's too young. He's too Jake Gyllenhaal to be Frederick too.
Yeah,
I thought about it because I did create like all the Ironwood characters, like all the NPCs. But I didn't want to just roll back in as another Ironwood.
Yeah.
We had temporary fears about you playing Tarly or like someone related to Costain, like someone from maybe Highgarden that was going to come in and had a connection.
I
thought about young Tarly. Was
young Tarly? Yeah,
that was the biggest fear, and we were like, we could never forgive Don if he did that to us.
No.
Did we say Blackmont at some point?
Yeah,
Blackmont, like the new lord. Like
I've got
like
big tinfoil about
I
Blackmont, but we'll discuss that later.
I didn't want to play two Dornish men in a row. Even as much as I love Dorne, it's like one of my favorite.
If we weren't gender locked, you would make a fantastic Lady Desmera. I want to see Don's Lady Desmera.
That would have been good.
That would have been fun.
That would have been.
I did think because we talked about like we might do a time skip after last season, or maybe sometime coming up we might do a time skip, and I was like, oh, a time skip would be the perfect time for me to come back because then I don't have to come in with a new character and kind of overcomplicate things. But once the idea of playing Rob came up, and Sam liked it, then that was like, okay, I could actually get Rob into this story without shaking the boat too much. He already has an investment in the world and the other characters.
It's a really great choice. And Rob was there in the very first episode. He was the one that was there, from the beginning of this story. And so he's a great POV character to be bringing in.
I did think if we were going to go ahead with the time skip that maybe he was Harris. I was just trying. I was like, male NPCs time skip.
Maybe. We were like, wait, is Fireball not actually dead? That was like some big ass tinfoil. No, that's not gonna happen.
I would have loved to have played Fireball.
There were a couple of like ghost characters that we floated that it could have been.
I'll tell you, I floated some ghost characters at Sam too, and some of my ideas I was throwing at him. He was like, yeah, pursue that, and I was like, yeah, maybe what about this one? But I'll say, because it doesn't matter, it didn't happen. I floated playing one of the two dead Greenmont brothers.
See,
we had a feeling. I was
thinking that, yeah.
Then maybe one of them didn't die and didn't get executed. That was a cover up because they escaped when they were being sent to the wall, and they've been hiding or doing whatever they're doing, and now they're back.
Damn.
That would have been juicy, but I feel like it would have taken too much away from the story that we've already built.
Yeah, I get you. But I think I speak for all of us when I say we're very glad that Rob's back.
And that you're back, Dawn. We would have missed you.
Yeah.
I didn't even miss an episode.
No.
True, you didn't know.
But for several months we were.
I'm glad to. Yeah, we were all missing the episodes. Yeah. I miss the show when it's not happening.
Yeah, we were all a little bit worried, but we're glad you're back.
So episode 1 is revealed. Rob's back. Another one of these Greenmont, almost like a Greenmont ghost, walks back into Marzia's life in the middle of the chaos of Marzia preparing to leave the house. And it's revealed that you've been tortured at Highgarden as a result of being captured in... It was like in the gardens, right, where Simon was kind of taken by Lord Hightower and that lot.
Weirwood. Simon got accosted in the Weirwood. And again, the Godswood, sorry. And Rob was there, and he's like, "Run, Simon!" And Simon did run and left him. And he ran
to Lord Hightower's feet, fell on his knees, and was like, "Oh, please, sir."
I just begged.
Begged.
Poor Rob was there going, "What the fuck?" And then.
The best thing, and the
Oh.
thing that I want to remind everyone is that Brendan Rivers was in that scene as well. He was calling Red Rob as a crow.
Really?
Yes.
I don't remember that. Man, you got a hell of a memory, Charlie.
Like spooky Uncle Brendan.
Charlie is very invested in Uncle Brindy. She wants to slide into
Wow.
those spooky DMs.
I do want to slide in those DMs.
She's all like,
I got favors to
senpai,
ask.
notice me. I can
Ooh.
also do your stuff.
Oof.
Yeah, there's a plan for that. And then, see, but the thing about
I'm worried now. I'm worried.
the thing about the torture scene, right? That it kind of went over Marcy's head because she was busy packing, but the detail was the guy in black copper armor
Yeah.
that Rob saw.
Mm.
Black copper armor is what Oliver is buried in the Godswood. It's what the Ironwood troops hold. So the question is, who the fuck is this black copper dude? Because we know Horatio has been either a Sunspear or an Ironwood. So it's not him. So who is wearing Ironwood armor and why? There are a couple of kind of good ideas as to why, but done. What do you think?
I feel like that's the biggest question I have, right? Is this because all the people, so the black copper armor, unless it's somebody else who's would go so far as to go into a dungeon, right, to a prisoner and pretend to be a knight of the Blood Royal, a brother of the Blood Royals, which are the Ironwood Knights. They were dressed like an Ironwood Knight, and all the Ironwood Knights that we know, I think, are in Ironwood at the time. That doesn't mean that one of them or Horatio or somebody, even a Martell might not have one of those knights in their pocket doing their dirty work up in Highgarden.
See,
I have no idea.
I had a theory that it could be the Martell, but then the Martell shows up at Ironwood, so it's not him. And I was like, okay, so maybe it's just kind of like one of those where you put on the armor of a close friend and you use that as a manipulation tactic of it's your friend that's turned on you. It's the torture of Theon, which Susie and I just rewatching season 3, so that's in my brain.
Yeah, well, I thought it was. I thought it was a red herring because we've already seen that they're implanting false agents in Dawn to start these conflicts, right? To incite a conflict. So, having a Dornish knight there overseeing your torture would be like, oh, the fucking Dornish.
Yeah, and you come running back to me and you're like, one of the Ironwoods was there. That would set up a rift between Marcia and Oliver where he's still alive because they don't know he's dead while you're being tortured.
That's true.
That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, it wouldn't have happened yet. Timeline-wise, he probably was still alive during that first scene of this season.
Yeah. So yeah, I 100% think it's fake. Like a
red herring.
Yeah, red herring to stir up some shit because
I think my favorite theory is it's Desmara that's in the armor, but then you said that you'd seen the face of this person. I was like, fuck, it can't be Desmara.
That would be really cool. She's wearing another man's face.
But it could be that mama, right? That Simon was prodding and poking, and that should have totally shanked him because he was kind of an old grizzled thespian type. Very adept.
I don't think Rob has seen the face though.
Yeah, they were like shrouded in darkness.
Oh, that was that. Yeah. So it's a different dude. It could be Desmara.
So the Desmara theory still lives.
Takes off the helmet and all this hair comes cascading
Charlie,
out.
Please.
Sorry. So we of the Greenmont house are basically deciding who's going where and doing what. And Rob's like, take me with you. Which was kind of a surprise because Rob's in shit shape, having been tortured to within an inch of his life.
But sorry, and before we go
Alfred was like, where am I going? What am I doing? Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to talk about who organized Rob's to escape. Because
that's a good question.
Someone the quote unquote torturer, right? The one who was torturing him suddenly has a change of heart and gets him out. And apparently someone wants Rob back. Who the hell is it? Someone,
I don't know.
Who's working for Greenmont? Because as far as I know, no one is. Not even the Greenmont.
Again, though, it could be connected to that whole go take back what's been done here to stir the pot, right?
That's true.
Rather than actually being
whoever
Greenmont.
It is, they were willing to murder, the Highgarden people. They murdered several guards, right?
this said in this episode that's just gone, we found out that Brynden Rivers is in the Reach. Or I'm 99% sure we found out Brynden Rivers is in the Reach right now.
Oh no!
Why
pretty
would
sure
he
too, yeah.
care? Why would he care?
Because this is my big question: is why does Brynden Rivers
Yeah,
care?
that's
But
the
he
thing.
keeps showing up for the Greenmonts, and yeah, he's meant to be everywhere. 1,001 eyes, but he has not just been there. He's interacted. He's
reckon-
spoken through ravens usually.
I reckon he has a crush on Marcia, and he's just kind of like,
I
He's creeping.
swear to God, if Marcia bangs Brynden, I'm done. I will fucking march on Fox Hollow.
It'll be
I
even
will
worse than the
set
With
it
you and your
all on
stabby rock.
fire.
But my theory for why Brynden Rivers cares is twofold. One, I do think he's interested in Marcia being a skin changer. But I don't think that's enough. I think he's keeping an eye on the rebel houses, and he's seeing a chance here to divide the rebel houses, to keep rebel houses in control. And so he's manipulating it from that side of things, because he doesn't like the rebels. When the Red Grass Field happened, after that, when Daemon II was like, all right, how do we handle this? He's like, crush them, stop them. Someone's betrayed you, they're done, they're gone. Young Brynden Rivers was very militant, very aggressive in the punishment. I think he's kind of mellowed down, but now he's playing the longer peace game, right? Where you can sow the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the Joseph McCarthy. Like if Joseph McCarthy were a sorcerer, that's Brynden Rivers, right? He is a bad dude, in my opinion. He suppresses people's freedoms a lot, and because he's got eyes, literally his own eyes everywhere, then he's able to uproot even the smallest conspiracies in this time period very, very easily. I love that he's part of the story, because we get that anytime there's a fucking bird that shows up in our game.
What color eyes does it have, Sam? What color eyes?
Yep.
Yeah, no, and yeah, like Brynden is very staunchly anti any sort of rebels. Like it's his life's mission to kill Aegon Rivers, to put an end to the Blackfyre line. So I can see him being very, very interested, especially with everything that's happening currently, like with houses and things on the move, with the Peak and Tarly doing their bullshit, and then what's happening in Dawn. Like I can imagine his head's on a swivel. He's got all those eyes going everywhere.
It does feel like two different groups are making a play at the same time.
At least two. I think three.
At least two. And I suppose it's possible maybe some of those groups are part of the same group, right? And they're making multiple plays as a misinformation kind of thing. I don't know. But I feel like, especially with the beginning, like for Rob's character, the way that I came in, that suggested to me that there's two different groups making plays.
Yeah,
in Highgarden.
for sure.
In Highgarden.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's my biggest regret, is that we don't have anyone in Highgarden. It's a place that I would love to play, but haven't really had chance with Marcia. And for this season, I decided not to send her there, but to send her chasing politics in the other direction.
A part of me,
we have
at
Mara.
one point, I think they're going to repeat, we don't have anyone in Highgarden.
We have no one in Highgarden.
But I would love it. The way I would love it is maybe sometime at the end of this season or something that we do eventually go to Highgarden, right? And it's going to be very much like King's Landing in season 1 of Game of Thrones, where, like, there's a lot of back deals, there's a lot of talking, whispers, and you got the soldiers there that are trying, and then ambushes and stuff. That's kind of like how I would picture it, how I would want it. Like it's playing war, but on like on a different level, and the battlefield is just much smaller. So who knows? Maybe we will eventually go to Highgarden. You never know where this goes, but that's what I'm hoping for. I mean, the problem is with my character, he's fucked if that happens. But we got other characters that'll more than compensate for that.
When I'm doing my tour of Westeros as Queen of Dawn, I'll pop into Highgarden.
Have you got your wave? Have you got a wave sorted out? Yeah. Look at that. Yeah.
No, it's with a stabby rock of.
Oh, fucking kill you!
It's the psycho stab. That's her wave as Queen of Dawn. Or it's the chuck the wine. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so episode 1. We still Rob came back. Marcia planned to leave.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom, you said to me, I want to have a conversation with Marcia before this happens to decide. This is what I was just leaning into. Before I decide where Alfred's going, because we didn't know. And in the meta, I kind of said to everyone, if you don't want to go in this direction, let me know, because we can find things for you to do. If you're more interested in going to Highgarden, or you're more interested in staying at Greenmont and doing Greenmont things. And we had this very ominous, Charlie, I want to have a conversation with Marcia. I'm like,
yeah,
that's my reaction to anyone wanting a conversation with Marcia.
And I couldn't say what, because when we were saying, like, what do you want to do meta wise, like, do you want, because as a group we never want to leave someone, we don't want to force someone to go somewhere that they don't want to be. This is a game, we play our characters, but at the end of the day we want to have fun, and we don't want to leave someone out just because it makes sense for, I don't know, X, Y, and Z. So we do our best to do a balance between the two. For myself, I was quite happy to either stay at Fox Hollow. It was going to be one of two options. He was going to stay at Fox Hollow, or he was going to go with Marcia. If he was going to go with Marcia, all you have to do is watch the episodes to see what happens. But if he was going to stay home back in Fox Hollow, I told Sam, I said, Sam, if Alfred stays home and he convinces Marcia to leave the baby, spoilers, then I want Alfred to kind of fully embrace that he is like the bastard, and he's going to take, quote unquote, run Fox Hollow. So he's going to have the peasants come and he's going to lure over and stuff like that. He's going to try and fully embrace that. And and it just never happened. It was a cool idea, and I wanted to know that. And if it did, you would see his conversations with primarily with the soldiers they got there, how he's going to react to that, how the people react to him and as now a bastard, and how he kind of changes from that. So that was an angle that never got shown. It would be interesting.
I think that was always my idea. Like, if you were left at Fox Hollow, I think Marcia would have given you stewardship role. Of you, like, someone needs to look after our small folk, because they're very important to Marcia. And there's a lot of shit that they're having to deal with right now, as well as what we're dealing with. So like, that would have been it. And she would have left, she still would have left Grammy Crane there and Babblebrook to kind of help, but she trusts Alfred, even though you've just returned from somewhere and she doesn't know where exactly. To her, like, you're the one person who stayed loyal this whole time.
Not gonna lie though, when because we talked previously, Tom, about you staying behind and looking after the baby and the house, and my brain, Game of Thronesy brain, was like, oh yes, leave the baby, leave the infant unguarded with the bastard who stands to gain a house. What could possibly go wrong?
I mean,
I know Alfred would never do it because he's too much of a good guy, but
I mean, that's perfectly valid, because
plus we
like
know
that,
Tom, and Tom is 100% that kind of a player.
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, you would have done it. You fucking would have done it. Look at that face.
I'm not saying anything. You can't prove a thing.
There's no
but
fifth
you did
to
come,
plead in
and
Westeros.
Briar got offered no choice in the matter.
No.
Unfortunately for Briar.
No.
Briar was coming. But also, I think, Briar wanted to be Marcia's bodyguard. That was how we kind of left it. After Oliver died and he saw, the state of the house, he was like, I got to keep this woman alive. She is literally our last chance now.
Yep.
So Briar was coming, and we set off at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But there were other things going on in the episode.
Meanwhile, in Dawn, so Miria's having a time there. Going, yeah, definitely Casella Sand, not Miria Greenmont. Yep. Hey, Frederick, want to teach me how to stab and fight, and which went pretty well, I think. It's pretty good. She kind of, she showed herself to be pretty stabby. She did try and stab him in the armpit, and he was like, whoa, this fucking kid just tried to kill me. She's like, well, I don't miss, bitch. Which
I play to win.
That was basically the conversation. He's like, whoa. And she's like, well, what's the point of stabbing someone if you're not going to kill him? And he's like, fair play, I guess. Which, got a little bit of respect there from the Order of the Blood Royal, which we will see pay off a little bit later. But then there's like, oh god, what happened that episode? Myria got a promotion. She went from washing the quills to writing the letters now. She's a little scribe. Immediately on her first day of the job, she's left alone and she steals documents out of the locked.
First thieving skill of the entire series.
Yeah, she fucking nailed it. Had to get a 15 and rolled a 15. So we got some documents out of there, which we find out later show a conspiracy aloof and Dawn. And then right at the end, there was a call, right? There was a horn sounded, and guess who showed up? It's only the Prince of Dawn and everybody else. Which is
by everybody else, she means the Master of Ships, Westeros, Lord Gargalen, and the fleet showed up with Marin Martell.
All the big boats.
And Princess Daenerys.
And Marin Martell, who's the worst. I hate him. He's tacky. And yeah, so Horatio is immediately all like, "Oh, the prince is coming." It's a bad time. It's a bad time. It was the beginning of the end of Myria's life at Ironwood, I believe. This episode, but the documents she found, I think we briefly showed what they were, right? This episode showed that Horatio had arranged this marriage with Lady Jane Martell without the knowledge of his parents. He'd received quite an extensive dowry, which it was suspected never made it into the house's coffers. Marin Martell wanted to know exactly the troop complement and strength. And what else was there? There was something else, I think. Oh, and there was a letter that was like, "It's a shame Oliver didn't die of the poison, lol." Basically from Marin Martell, because he's the worst.
This was basically us witnessing Marin Martell buying Ironwood. Because that's what he did. He gave money to Horatio in the form of a dowry, married his daughter, Jane, to Horatio. So if Horatio dies, Jane is 10, for context, so there's no way she can have a child. So if Horatio dies, that house is Martell's. Any money that's gone to Horatio, whether it's in the fucking house coffers or in his pocket, goes back to the Martells. The Martells have access to the complement because that's a direct line. It goes to his wife. The only one who can challenge, of course, is Frederick II. Although they don't know Oliver's dead, but he's
so
in exile.
Oliver, but he's in exile. And then there's Frederick, who's the cousin. So go ahead.
There's no more heir. So they have a sister, and she's married. She's married.
Dane, right?
Yeah. She's married basically to the Sword of the Morning in this current era of time.
I mean,
so she's not going to leave that guy.
Would House Dane try and grab Ironwood? But would they do it again?
I don't think they would, because they are very loyal to the Martells so far in everything we've seen. I mean, Diana Dane is married to Prince Maekar, so we know they're kind of in that whole Targaryen Dawn marriage situation.
Historically, the Danes tend to be like the most law-abiding of all of the major Dornish houses. So whatever the law says, like that's their honor. Like that's written into the code of who they are.
Yeah,
that's why so many of you like the greatest, the greatest knights of the Seven Kingdoms have been Danes over time. So I don't think she would come back.
No.
So there'd be no heir, right? If Horatio died right now, would there be an heir?
No.
No.
Which is why it was a ludicrous marriage for him. It was great. He got some quick cash, but he has no child to inherit. Like there is no legacy for him here. And Martell forever has a great big stone that he can drop anytime he wants on Horatio's head. He doesn't even have to kill him. He just sends him to the wall. And it's done.
I'm
Should have done that
genuinely
already.
waiting for Horatio to either die or get sent to the wall. It's
But
gonna
right now,
happen.
I think Horatio is kind of useful to the Martell, and the Martell. That's what I'm just going to keep calling him. The Martell is kind of he. I think he's got fingers in a lot of pies currently, as he's setting up for something big, in my opinion. In his head, at least. I don't know if it'll ever come to fruition, but I fully believe he's going for the Seven Kingdoms.
I think
He's
so,
really
too.
that's
think?
what I think, and I think that's why Brynden is tinkering. I think Brynden knows what the Martells
Is that
are
why
up
they've
to.
got the navy? They're gonna sail up and take King's Landing
Right.
from the
That's a
Black
Especially
large
since all the
navy.
princes have come running
Huge.
down south.
And from Castle Ironwood, it's just a march up the Boneway straight to Summerhall. It's it is a very defensible march. And
on the way are the
very little
Wills, who are
space.
currently pissed at Maekar because Maekar let their lord die. It's a huge conspiracy. This is the big
All I'm
tinfoil.
saying is if Unky Brindy wants to help destabilize the Martells, hit me up, man. Hit me up. I'm on it.
Suddenly, Susie is like, DM me.
Yeah.
I've got open DMs, Unky Brindy. Get in there.
Tell you what, the second she sees a fucking raven, I tell you what, and it winks, she knows.
We'll talk about the wink. Oh, yeah, we will. So let's move on to the second episode of the season. Unless anyone had anything else about that one.
I don't think so.
No, we can get on the talk of Miria's tiny rebellion later on because that's
so.
It's relevant
The second episode is Mara in Highgarden. And was that the episode? Was it just Mara and Highgarden?
No, Miria was
it was
there.
it was Mara and Miria.
Yeah.
Because it was actually Horatio. It was actually Mara and Martell
It was the big
Ironwood.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So Susie, why don't we talk about that? We'll talk a bit more about the Martells and Miria.
Okay, so this one we started off with the receiving line. Everybody out stood in the heat. As Mara and Martell and Daenerys walk up with their retinue, and everybody stood outside, and Horatio's like, "Oh, well, this is Casella Sand, my niece, Oliver's daughter," and Mara and Martell immediately goes from like, "Oh, nice to meet you," to "Oh, and then says right in front of her face, "Does the apple fall far from the tree?" To which Miria's like, "Bitch, you better find out." I just hated it. I hated it so much. It was just and then there was Daira next to Miria, and we're like, "Yep, she's my lady's maid. Yep, normal servant lady." And then Daenerys followed afterwards, and Miria had completely ignored her, and we got that little from Sam, which was everything. But yeah, the fun thing about
you look
Daenerys,
nice today.
You look beautiful today. But the fun thing is, as far as Daenerys knows, this is the daughter of the man who snubbed her at the tourney at Old Oak. The man who rode with Blackfyre colours and crowned someone else the Queen of Love and Beauty. So...
And killed his brother when he was younger, his older brother. In a way, he owes Oliver, because he would not be prince right now.
Yeah.
That's the letter to send from the grave done. That's the one.
I think maybe that factors into the gift that he gives later on. And then I hate Mara Martell so much.
The interesting thing about Dawn, though, is Dawn regard bastards much more or much less as, a second-class citizen than, the Reach and the rest of Westeros. Yeah. They're kind of cool with it, just in the same way they have, the law where it's the eldest who inherits, whether they're female, male, or whatever, they inherit. It's kind of a similar, happens, we all got bastards. Let's be chill about this.
For sure. And I can also see the cogs in Mara Martell's head ticking over, right? Because even though Oliver is exiled, this is another Ironwood here in front of him. This is another problem. This is someone that, if Horatio becomes inconvenient and is gotten rid of, this is someone that can step up and make a claim. So I can understand why Mara Martell's like, is she cool? Is she cool?
Right? You're in the way of his sweep Ironwood plan to a degree.
Sure, yeah.
Because fuck, Oliver has a legacy. He's exiled, but here's this bastard. That's a small problem.
Yeah.
It's not a huge problem because you know you're not legitimized, but it's enough, right?
Mhm.
Everyone knows about the icon.
Yeah. And it's not gonna, it doesn't look great, does it, really, if, you know, when the Prince of Dawn is like offing kids to get a house under his control, like he's got to be smart about it. So I can understand why he kind of went into panic mode there, trying to figure out, kind of get a little bead on Miria as she stood there, and she's all very smiles. Nice to meet you, Prince. In the back of her head. But this is where she then heads off to investigate these materials further, and it's where she really fully understands the extent of this conspiracy going on between Maren Martell and Horatio. And I think at that point, because from Miria's point of view, she knows nothing about what's happened anywhere else in the game. So her whole thing she's been very isolated in a little bubble. She doesn't even know that Marcia gave birth, right? She doesn't even know that. She has no clue. She doesn't know that Oliver's dead. She doesn't know that he's not coming back. I mean, it's been quite some time. And she had that dream, which is there still in the back of her head. Like, he's fucking dead. He's not coming back. But she's there still. You know, he's going to be back anytime. She's waiting for her Gandalf on the second day of Helm's Deep, right? She's waiting for that on the hill of Oliver coming back. And
Fucking
they take
hell,
the
she's
house.
going to be disappointed with what comes instead.
Yeah! It's going to be not Gandalf, it's like a fucking Barbie doll and a pug instead that comes over the hill. So to Miria's point of view, she's uncovered this conspiracy, which has only added this fire to her of like, shit, we got to do something. And I'm going to lay the foundations here. I'm going to get that undermining of trust in Horatio going. So when Oliver does come back, we can be like, look at this shady bitch. Look at this great guy. Let's take this house. So she heads out to the training yard again with Frederick II. And they, so Frederick II, not Frederick II, he's not a fucking sequel. And they practice with spears this time, which is like, it's in the fields, right? So they're there and they're doing really well. And Miria she has a really good training session, and she really gains, like, I think she gains respect in Frederick's eyes there because she's going for it. She's learning, she's doing the footwork, she gets a good couple of hits on him, and he's wearing armor. Obviously, she doesn't hurt him, but she taps his armor. He hits her a couple of times. She doesn't quit, you know. She like picks herself up out of the dust, and she's like, that fucking sucked, but let's go again. And afterwards, they're sitting down and having a rest, and Frederick's like, yo, you know what the Order of the Blood Royal is about, right? And Miria's like, I don't. And he's like, well, back when the Ironwoods were kings, we were the Blood Royals, and we were still kind of salty that we're not kings anymore. And Frederick outright says that he would, at a drop of a hat, use force to once again become kings. He would do a treason. And he actually does say to Miria, you know, we're talking about treason here. And Miria's like, fuck it. I mean, I escaped from Summerhall. We killed a couple of Targaryen guards. At this point, I mean, can't get much treasonous.
And this is after the end of season 2, where you reacted to Horatio becoming the head of house, which I think is kind of what sold Frederick II on, this is who I tell this story to.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and one thing I did say to Sam is that I very much wanted Miria coming to season 3 to be making a show of she is the Blood Royal. You know, she is the blood of the Blood Royal. She's vocal. She challenges Horatio. She's martial. She makes sure people see her training in the yard with Daira and the men. You know, she's trying to put herself up there as like, I am worthy of being someone to listen to at this house. Like, she's trying to go for it, right? She's doing it on her own little terms, and she's getting in there with Mama Ironwood before she turned out to be a craven, but we'll get to that later. I know, Don, so disappointing. So yeah, Miria's like walking around like, I'm the big dick in this place. And she outright says to Frederick, like, I've found out that Horatio is selling the house down the river for a quick buck. And Frederick's like, what? And he's like, well, we'll have this conversation, you know, we'll talk again a bit later. And then Miria is grabbed to go have dinner at the big feast. And Marin Martell is like, oh, my brothers, peace and unity between the two families. And Horatio's like, yes, my liege, kiss, kiss, smooch, mooch. I love you very much. And Marin Martell comes around with these gifts that are all like insults in a way, just horrible. Like, he gives Miria like this like diadem little tiara thing. He doesn't give Jane a horrible present because she's his kid. He gives her a lovely dress. But Helena gets like, what did she get? Did she get like a really elaborate like quill or something that was like a fuck you because you used to run this house but you don't anymore? Like, the stuff he gives them is just like, it's so tacky, so over the top. It's such a display of wealth. And I think as well, part of that display to Miria and definitely Frederick was like, this fucking guy, and tensions are definitely starting to rise in the house. But this is definitely the start of Marin Martell making his big play at Ironwood, like asserting his power, and it's going completely unchallenged by Horatio, who's just like, he's rolled over, he's on his back, you know, he's got his tummy exposed, he's like, yes, he's ugh. But anyway, does anybody else have any thoughts about this stage of the Dawn situation? Because I could rant about this for a while.
I hate it. I really like that the Blood Royals and Miria have had all these great, especially you know, Francis too. Mm-hmm. These really great interactions. It's really cool. I know that like so last season we had the battle, mm-hmm. right, and the Blood Royals, the Knights, they went to Vulture's Roost under Oliver. Along with the Sandworms, which are the other elite unit, the other army besides the garrison that's at Ironwood. And we don't know, I don't think we know whose side the Sandworms are on, probably mm-hmm. Horatio's. But I like the idea that the Blood Royals, and I didn't know if this would be true, actually are turning out to hold true to like their ancient idealism.
And I think this ties into the last conversation Oliver had with his father, where he's like, you've got to like earn their respect. You can't just walk in here and expect them to behave for you. You take them to battle and you earn it. And so that's what Oliver did, and he took them to battle and they won essentially. But then there was the conflict with Alistair, Tarly, and all that stuff that happened, and Oliver ended up coming back to Greenmont. But the Blood Royals still got to see Oliver in action, and Oliver as a leader, and he bitch slapped someone across a fucking room.
That's what I was gonna say, is like part of the show, in my mind, when I was playing Oliver at the end of the battle, when there's that social intrigue, in my mind, part of the show of that intrigue wasn't necessarily just to try to see if I could convince the other leaders there to maybe join in Oliver's rebellion that he was stoking, but to say to the Blood Royals, like, look, I'm the real deal, and I'm gonna, you know, like, we're gonna do what we said we were gonna do for all these years, and we're gonna say, fuck you, Martell, fuck you, Targaryen, mm-hmm. You know, and so part of that was show for their purposes, but I didn't know, you know, if they would actually, like, if they would go back and, you know, care if mm-hmm. they were already in Horatio's pocket. As a player, I didn't know that, but I love seeing those interactions, and I love that Miria has some allies.
Finally,
because there's a lot of enemies there, but the Knights, I mean, you know, they're really, really meaningful and powerful allies. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's like Oliver, like, displaying his worth as a leader there. It's like, that's what Miria was trying to do on her own little smaller scale, because she's not, you know, she's maybe not being like, I'm the leader you should follow, but it's like, look, I'm this guy's kid, so, you know, I'm the next generation, and, you know, we're gonna all work together to do this, right? We're gonna get there. You know, it was that kind of deal, and I like that it seemed to have paid off.
I think so too. It's almost like seeing like a young politician that you're really excited mm-hmm. about, and you think like, oh, well, when they get a little bit older, like mm-hmm. they could actually change things. Mm-hmm. Like, this is somebody we can actually invest in now and believe in now. And I feel like the Knights feel that way about Miria.
See, I see Miria 100% as our Arya Stark, no matter where she goes, she finds an ally, or she makes an ally. Miria is our own little intrigue beast, and I think she is underestimated by many people who haven't seen her sheet. But we say she's finally got allies. Miria's had an ally every step of the way, and she is very good at trading up. She starts out, with Blackmont getting her out there. She bumps into Daera. She fucking trades up. She bumps into Oliver. She trades up. She gets to the house. She's working on Mama Ironwood, who was head of the house for a significant period of time, not in name, not in public recognition, but in the core. She knows the books. She knows all of that stuff. And, she keeps trading up, and now Frederick's coming to her. Because, I think
it's Francis, not Frederick. I think we got Frederick from somewhere else.
Oh, is it Francis?
Yeah.
I've got Frederick in my notes for it. Anyway, whatever his name is. Mm-hmm. The dude.
The F Knight.
The F Knight.
No!
F's for respect to the Dornish Rebellion. But yeah, I think Miria is very good at trading up, either by luck or by machination. Sometimes I think by luck. Sometimes I think she happens to cross paths with the right person in the right moment. Mm-hmm. But it's cool, regardless. But what's going to be interesting is, like Arya Stark, it's when people know who she actually is that going to be a problem? Is that who she actually is, or is she the waif? Who knows? Mm-hmm. But it's the same kind of thing, and it continues to build over this season.
And it's one thing that so I was listening to a podcast the other day, Radio Westeros, which is a great podcast. You should listen to it. And they were talking about identity in A Song of Ice and Fire and how key that is for a lot of characters. It's like, who are they? Like they either discover it along the way, like Dunk, like he wants to be a knight, but he has to learn what that is, right? He has to learn what it means to be. Egg hides his identity. He's a fucking Targaryen prince, but he shaves his head and acts like a little shithead. It's all about who you are, who you present yourself as. And it's one thing that I'm looking at with Miria, right? She's started out as this very quiet, subservient, like, oh, I don't know, I shouldn't do a treason because there's a bed. And now she's like, fuck the Martells. I've got a rock. I'm going to fucking stab everybody. And she is, right now she's currently going by the name of Casella Sand. That's not her name. She's claiming to be Oliver's bastard, and that remains to be unseen, crinkle, crinkle. But as far as we know, that's not true. So she is going by a different name, a different identity. But at the end of the day, is her identity her birth, or is it who she has made herself to be? She has made herself this strong-willed young woman, or is she the daughter of Greenmont? Like, which one, or is she both?
Simultaneously, though, in both cases, she's kind of adopted a cause, right? When she was being a Greenmont, she's being a good Greenmont. She's adopted being an Ironwood, so she's being a good Ironwood. And I still don't think we've seen Miria's cause, right? Mm-hmm. I think she'll get there, but she needs to keep growing. She needs to keep living, preferably, to do that, because she's still riding the high of, do you know who my dad is, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. At Greenmont, do you know who my dad is? Oh, not at Greenmont, the Summer Hall. I'm a ward. I'm protected. You can't do this to a ward. And now it's Oliver is my dad. Like, mm-hmm. So it is really interesting. But the core problem for Miria, until very recently, was doesn't matter what name you go by, you've been labeled a spy by a Targaryen prince. Mm-hmm. Which is a huge problem. Whether you claim to be Oliver's daughter, Greenmont's daughter, Targaryen daughter, doesn't matter until that label's gone, which is why Oliver was fighting so hard to clear the name, and now all the witnesses are dead. Everyone who was in the room where it happened is dead. As far as we know. Crinkle, crinkle.
Does anybody know, except for Maekar, that he labeled Miria a spy?
We don't know. We didn't see what he did in Summer Hall, but we know that he came charging down to the Reach.
Well, we know that gossip has spread very quickly because Rosanna Crane showed up at Greenmont and was like, yo, your kid's a fucking spy. And then at Highgarden, the whole court was like, that Greenmont girl, though. And Mara's like, hold up. Nah. But it did spread very quickly that Miria and Blackmont had done one as spies, treasonous people.
And as far as we know, Maekar kept his word, which was to go up to King's Landing and tell the king about what's going on and then come back with his brother, which was his announcement. So as far as we know, yes, people know that Maekar believed she was a spy, or that she helped the spy Daemon escape, which is just as bad in a lot of books. And this is why Daemon is Miria's biggest problem, to an extent that no one else knows really she's there, because Oliver just told Marcia, yeah, she's with some vulture chick, don't worry about it.
Gonna have to ditch her.
No.
100% gonna have to ditch
I
her.
invested a fucking destiny point in Daemon. It's just staying.
One of these points, you're gonna have to ditch her. Telling you. Does Maekar know what she looks like?
Yeah.
Oh, you.
And what Miria looks like, funnily enough.
Yeah.
But luckily, Maekar's not going in the direction of Ironwood, so we've got time on that one. So Mara, sorry, go ahead. Don.
Oh no. I was just gonna stoke the flames a little bit more.
No, do it. Stoke the flames. Do it.
Poke the
You know,
fire.
there's a lot of wildfire underneath King's Landing, like enough to burn down the entire reach.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, it's not at the moment, right?
They've started making it, I'm pretty
Have
sure.
they really?
It's
Is
been
it
there
this
for a long
they've
time.
started- I thought that was.
He ramps up production
Mhm.
when he goes crazy, in the future when he's king.
But yeah,
they're already making it.
The court
Wow.
pyromancers definitely know how to make it, and because they lose how to make it, right? They lose how to do it by Cersei's time, and they have to figure out how to do it again.
Mhm.
But they definitely know how to do it because that's how Summerhall burns down. It's with wildfire.
Spoilers.
Sorry, yeah.
We just moved that timeline up significantly.
I mean, we're on the way to Summerhall burning down and to a spring sickness in 10 years, which wipes out like half the Targaryens, nearly all of the Targaryens, and Maekar becomes king somehow, which isn't interesting in any levels.
Down, Charlie, down.
So that's going on. But right, Mara at Highgarden.
Before we get to Mara,
this.
one more other thing happened with Miria when she went to bed that night. She piloted Salistria.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you
How do you
borrowed
feel
the
about
cat.
Borrowed
Oh
the
yeah,
cat.
that was so weird.
It was very weird.
Mhm.
It made me think. Go.
Again, my theory
Warg?
on it is that it was Sam communicating again with Miria, like in the way that we've seen Oliver's death be communicated, and Miria's kind of had like green sight dreams before. It was a proximity thing, right? It's you being told Salistria is weirdly nearby because you could see where she was, and it was near Vulture's Roost, and she's out and about. So I think that's what it was, because we don't share any blood.
No.
Well, we do if you go a long way back, and only if you're actually a Greenmont. But a long way back, all the way to Garth Greenhand. That's when we were last related. So there's no way that can happen. And you haven't spent a destiny point on Warg, and you haven't had contact with Salistria recently to have the bond. But I think like it was a heads up.
Yeah.
Fam is coming.
Which is how Miria would have taken it. That if Salistria is nearby, that means Marcia is nearby, which means Oliver's nearby. They're on the way, and she steps up, being a bit more bold, which will lead to that incident. But one other very interesting thing was revealed to us through Salistria's eyes. There are still men at Vulture's Roost,
and we've been shown that twice.
So. This will add to later crinkling.
Armed men. Yeah, we will get to that for sure.
But it's very interesting to know. I mean, I guess it kind of... No, I wouldn't... I don't know. If you were a vulture that got defeated at Vulture's Roost and you weren't executed or sent off somewhere, you wouldn't hang around still.
I mean, it depends on if you had anywhere else to go.
Well, I mean, so all of the reaches cleared out pretty quick afterwards because Maekar had sent his edict of illegal, and everyone was like, scramble, get the fuck out.
I mean, it wasn't like
all of his troops went back to Ironwood, so no one like flattened the place.
Yeah. So it's a place, it's a tower that was vacant. People would go there, I think. I think they're just remnants of what the.
But also, think of it this way: there's an empty seat in that tower, and they know anyone can be the Vulture King.
If they're stupid enough to try it again, I mean, geez. I mean, this is Game of Thrones. There are
He's
people
being a bandit
stupid
king,
enough
right?
to do it,
They might not be stupid enough to go full Blackmont. I'm King of Dawn,
which was stupid enough as it was. It was stupid as all hell. But you know.
I still
yeah.
wish we knew what happened in that conversation between Oliver Ironwood and Doofus Blackmont.
Well, it wasn't really them
It was
that
a
had
good
the
one.
conversation, to be honest.
That sounds about right. Manipulative Miria came in and swooped it.
Using her allies like
Yeah.
they're nothing.
It was no, actually.
It was, please don't kill my adopted dad. No adopted dad.
Yeah, how
They're
many
just try- they're
dads
just
has
trying to find
Miria
out secrets.
adopted
They
now?
are trying to
hmm?
find out
Miria is
secrets.
just
I know.
mega daddy
Miria
issues.
has got daddy issues.
No, you don't fucking say.
No way. Like, just so much.
Male figure issues. She doesn't have a great history with them.
Yeah.
Everyone says Marcia's cursed, but Miria's lost just as many people.
I kind of feel though Miria's situation is kind of in a certain
Perpetuating?
extent, perpetuated a little. Yeah, I
This
think
sounds
so.
an awful like victim blaming to me. Miriam never asked to be kidnapped. I'm just saying. She
No.
wasn't
Kidnapped.
She was trying to be smart, right? Fucking Daira is all like, "Hey, come be a spy for Aegon Rivers," and Miriam's like, "Are you a fucking idiot?" No. She was playing smart, and then Blackmont's like, "Oh no, this kid, I can't let bad things happen to her." And Miriam may have charmed him. That we'll ignore that, where I facilitated my own kidnapping with the charming.
But let's be clear, it's not a kidnapping, Susie. In Blackmont's mind, it was a rescue to start
Yes,
with.
it was a rescue. Sorry, let's just say yes, a rescue.
You were not unwilling beyond the fact that you'd been previously drugged, not by Blackmont.
I mean, to be
It was a
fair-
rescue. You were like, what was he going to do? Just leave you in a room with two dead lords? That's not a good fucking look either.
No, but
Well, I reckon if he did that, she would have got off scot-free.
yeah, she
Maybe.
was
He's a-
drugged.
Blackmont is definitely an
drugged.
idiot.
And you would still be in Summerhall, you'd still be sipping tea. I mean, you're
Can we play in the
miserable,
politics?
but you know.
Welcome, Raiders. Welcome.
Hey, Raiders.
I'm just getting dragged for being kidnapped. Don't worry about it. It happened 2 seasons ago, and I'm still getting.
But
shit
I
for
mean,
it.
after that point, that isn't even what we're talking about. It's after that point, Maria makes a lot of decisions and has actually a lot of power, which is super cool. And it's one thing that's kind of coming out more and more is all the girls in this game have the power currently, despite the fact this is a patriarchy, and that power can be snatched away from them very quickly by the
Well,
patriarchy.
they just have to use it in different ways, right? Like, they can't use their power the same way as the men use their power. So they have to just use it differently. You have to apply it differently.
Well, they can use their power the same way men use their power, as we've found out.
As we will find out. All right, but okay, so beyond Miria from that episode, we will move back to Mara at Highgarden, who is not making the best plays, in my opinion. I think Mara, the second she should have got to Highgarden, she should have been like, "Yo, there was fucking traitors going on down at Greenmont. My husband went to go sort it out. It got violent. Unfortunately, people died, but we put them down. Like, you know, you are safe. Like, this is, we dealt with the traitors." But Mara's going, "I'm pregnant. Can we just forget about it? Can we just forget that the man that raised us was murdered in my childhood home because I'm pregnant?"
Well, right. It's like you don't even have to claim that you put it down. You just go there and you're like, this is what happened. They're going to tell you one thing, but look, I came straight here, Leo. She's been talking crap about you behind your back to start with. Oliver was making deals and he killed 2 people because as far as they know, he could have killed Blackmont as well. You know, it's, you know, you spin the story, right? You play the propaganda. Whereas Mara's kind of gone the other way and she's feeling everyone out, I think. But Costain kind of claps about like, I was there, bitch. Like, you can't be pretending nothing happened. I was there. And I think this was him going, you've got to get your story straight. You've got to have a story here.
Yeah.
Because Costain, I think, wants to use Mara. Like, he's worked his way on Alistair, and now Mara's here in court. He knows who's driving this marriage.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he's, like, prodding her. And then if she doesn't go the way he wants, he's got so much to use against her. But Mara's pregnant, everyone. Headline of the season, Mara's pregnant. She's
Like,
very excited about it.
She's mad at Alistair, right? Because he did murder Oliver. She's all like, I'm still gonna grieve for him. You can't stop me. But then in the next breath, she's like, I know you didn't mean to do it. And I'm like, he fucking murdered guys to get in there. Of course he meant to do it. He wasn't going in there to arrest. That was a fucking straight up murder.
Well, okay, so let's straighten this out just a tiny bit. Tarly murdered the guys to get in because Alistair went to the door to let them in. So that's the
Right,
stuff.
okay.
Like, he technically
He
didn't
was
do that.
complicit, though.
And because we discussed this with V, and we think was being a naive idiot. But the second he had the opportunity to kill Oliver, he took it. So, but end of the day, you walk in with a murder force is a murder force. It was never going to happen any other way, and anyone with half a brain knew it wasn't going to go any other way. Because if they thought it was going to go another way, they would have just asked Marcia.
Well, that's the thing, right? If
Well-
you are going to arrest someone in a lord's household, you make your intentions known to the lord, right? Or the
And
regent.
you don't do it midway through a fucking feast. Like,
Sorry,
Let's
Donna,
be
cut you
honest.
off there.
sorry.
Marcia was never going to give Oliver up. Just wasn't going
She
to
might
happen.
have.
I don't think so.
She might have.
She might have.
We'll never know. We'll never know. So I hope that Mara enjoys her Tarly son.
Yep. Yep.
But I don't
No
know.
bitterness whatsoever in that sentence. Is there?
But I do worry about her though, because obviously, she's in a tough situation, and she's trying to make this marriage work, and she's trying to have a family and do the things that, I think when I think of Mara, about the actual show Game of Thrones, the book series of Song of Ice and Fire, I think a lot about young Sansa. How Sansa, just wasn't willing to let go early on of the things that she had been brought up to expect out of life, even if it made her complicit in doing some truly bad things when her family really needed her. And I think we're seeing something very similar with Mara right now. And there's always a question, right? It's never too late for Mara to realize, like, you're a terrible person. And this isn't what I want my life to be. And for her to change, her mind about that, or she might not.
See, I think of her more as Tyrion's girlfriend.
Oh yeah, I could see that too.
She kind of knows the game she's playing, right? And she kind of knows how the rules sort of work. But she's got like a rose tint to it, right? She doesn't see that the second she's found, Cersei's going to shank her, or Tywin's going to shank her, or, any number of things can happen to her. She kind of knows, but not really, because Tyrion's there and it'll be fine.
And I guess the difference is, and I honestly don't know this answer because I don't know V's backstory necessarily entirely, but Mara's young, right? Like Mara's what, like 18? 18, right? But how experienced is Mara in the world outside of Fox Hollow? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
I have no idea.
I don't think she is really. I think she
She's
went to
not.
court a couple of times with Lucas when she was younger, but really,
I mean, we have to remember she's meant to be Lucas's daughter, though, and within our fiction, Lucas was meant to have his head semi-screwed on most of the time. So I think she knows a little bit. But yeah, everyone in this game has come from kind of a sheltered place in their own way. And I think, when we have seen all through the game, like, all she's wanted is to become pregnant and fulfill that wife role, so it's happening. So that is going to be distracting to her. And that is going to be like, why isn't that a big deal to you? Why do you worry about that bit? That bit's not important. I'm doing my job here.
Yeah. But that's a train that for the sake of her and her child, she should jump off of as soon as possible, because there is terror coming to Highgarden.
Yeah. Honestly, I think Mara is in damage limitation mode. I genuinely believe she doesn't agree with what happened at Fox Hollow. I think she's not complicit in it. She doesn't want it. She's trying to balance her loyalty to the family and to her husband. She knows if she went full Greenmont and went, "Fuck you, Alistair, you piece of shit," slap and all that, and then he goes, "We're going," she's got to go with him. By law, she's his wife and she's got to go, and he could make her life a living hell. So I think at the moment she's in damage limitation. She's trying to switch his focus to, we're having a family here. Focus on that, not the big game that whatever the fuck you're trying to play.
I think you're right, but I think she's on
losing
internal damage
disastrous.
limitation,
Yeah.
and she's not in a place where you can do that because this is the external.
Well, that's it. You know, she's not in a place to do it, but that's what she's done. She's gone.
She should have been going to the
defensive.
cranes and manipulating them. She should have been going to Costain, making sure everyone's stories were in line to protect Alistair. Even if you're viewing it as a protection of Alistair, like that's the train that she should have hopped. Like that's the train she should have hopped.
But she can't. I feel the problem. She's at a crossroads. She can't protect Alistair without throwing Greenmont under the bus, and she doesn't want to throw Greenmont under the bus because I still think she holds affection to the family.
She admits it in this episode, though, that she knows Marcia's not going to give up on this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it. So she's kind of like she's gone into. She doesn't know what to do. She's gone insular. She's going like hoping that this will go away.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's a very naive look on it.
It's a naive.
If you don't address it, it'll go away.
I think there's another problem within the meta of the game in that this was meant to be like a week after she's been there already, but V hasn't had time to play those scenes, right? So this was her first time to give a reaction. So really, she's in the story like a week behind where she should be. But also, this is, you know, when Leo Tyrell just gets back, Gwaine Oakhart's just turned up, and she does go to Gwaine and try and make play a little bit, you know, kind of softballing at best what's going on. Like, we should talk. We should really have a conversation. Don't worry, it's not super important. Oh, and I'm pregnant, by the way. But yeah, I think it's just super naive in a lot of ways. And it's like she is young. But then everyone in our game has ended up being very young now, and everyone in the game is having to react. And we know in this game, if you don't react quick enough or effectively, that's it. Like, it's very hard to turn the ship around once it's sailed.
With the episode that we were due to have tonight, which we found out that Prince Baelor is headed to Highgarden, I think Mara is about to learn a very harsh lesson. I think her and Alistair are going to have the hammer dropped on them because he's arrived at Highgarden, and Baelor he's a very just kind of guy. He's a very like by the book, by the law kind of guy. And he's not going to look well or kindly upon people breaking hospitality, even if that is for the greater good, if they believe it to be. What they did was completely like out of order.
And it's a double down as well on them going and attacking Dawn, which he doesn't want because his dad is the peacemaker.
This I think this would be the episode where Mara has to choose a side. This is the moment where she has to go one way or another, and I'm fascinated to see what
I think the other naivety of Mara is she's never met someone that she can't persuade to her view. So in a way, she can just sit back and be like, I'll just persuade them later. Like, she's, you know, I'll get another chance to run at it and then I can do it, kind of thing. And I think in a way it's because the game is mechanically broken and some of us have built very mechanically broken characters.
You don't say.
But then on, like, you know, even if she is that kind of a person who's just used to being able to get her way with anyone, especially men, like she, you know, it lessens that fear in your mind of I should do something now. Whereas Marcia's already had that run-in with that person. You can't just magically turn into your camp. And she knows, like, you've got to act quick and you've got to be decisive.
See, I do think that there's a third play for Mara where she can save Alistair and protect Greenmont and kind of start to make amends for what happened and what she is at least partially complicit in, and that she didn't try to stop it, right? But I don't think she has all the information she needs, but nobody's better positioned to blow this entire thing wide open than Mara. Because she's sitting there. She's sitting at the table with Alistair and Tarly and Costain. And I think like there's this idea that if Costain's not the person behind the major conspiracy in Westeros, he's maybe the person beneath that person, right? He's the person who's really moving the pieces around. He's sort of the Peter Baelish of our campaign, at least at this point.
Well, he's more the Varys. He's even more subtle than Baelish is.
Yeah. And she could expose him. She could expose him to Baelor. She could expose if she could figure out that he's probably the reason why Alistair did what he did. That at least that's kind of the theory that I think we kind of have is maybe that when Alistair and Costain go off in the woods, that Costain, the day of the murder, that Costain says,
during the hunt.
During the hunt.
Well,
I
Costain
know-
already admitted it. V does know because
and
that was not V, sorry, Mara.
Yeah, and Mara's like, well, I don't think that Lord Costain would have told you if he'd have thought you'd have done this. And I'm like, Mara, come
Costain's
on.
there like, I just
right
told
there.
him what I knew.
She's so close.
Like, Costain was like, I just told him what I knew. I didn't tell him to go and kill the guy. Costain is already washing his hands. He's already doing his job. I do agree though, Don. I think Mara has a few more options than we're suggesting in that she has to choose sides, because I think she can still play the game.
I think she's one good intrigue away with a good objective, or an objective that would actually get her the information she needs to act on it. And a few good dice rolls away from like blowing the conspiracy open, maybe even saving her marriage, even though I personally, like, I hope Alistair dies, but if he lives, good for Mara. And helping Greenmont. So she's still there, but I think Tom's right too, that this next episode, it might be her last chance. So that's going to be cool to see.
We do know that Mara has sent a letter to Marcia. That's in canon. I don't know what it says yet. And we also know that we skipped over from the first episode, Marcia sent out several letters. She sent a letter to Baelor, Maker, the Maester in Old Town, and to Lord Hightower, who is the Master of Coin, or the Treasurer, or whatever you want to call him, Finance Minister for Leo Tyrell, rather than going to Leo Tyrell himself, because Marcia has for some reason decided he's trash. I don't know why she decided that, but he got swept up in Marcia's fury some point along the way.
So yeah, that letter was very much a young pig, young Tarly, young pig, young Tarly. And not young pig, young Oakheart, young Tarly.
I don't think it's been on stream, right?
No, it hasn't.
The lesser, I think.
But it's very much like,
hey,
did I mention it was young Oakheart and young Tarly that did this? Did I mention those two though?
It was Babblebrook that wrote it as well.
It was those two. Just checking to make sure I put it in this paragraph. It was those two that did it. And those went out across the reach.
Oakheart and Tarly.
Yeah, Oakheart and Tarly.
Yeah.
But speaking of young Peak, because that would pretty much bring us to the end of episode 2, what brings us into episode 3, which was a doozy of an episode. So that was the arrival. It was
that was the Prince's Pass.
Prince's Pass, right? This is Marcia, Rob, Alfred, and Briar on the way to Summerhall to begin with.
Yeah. Ironwood,
yes.
So I'd realized after the first episode that with Rob coming back and telling us that he's told Highgarden everything he knew, that included he knew where Miria was. And it kind of meant that everyone now knows that we know where Miria is. And that occurred to me, and it would have occurred to Marcia as well. So we're on the Prince's Pass. We're having a miserable time. Everyone is sunburnt to fuck because I can't roll for my men, and they're also not built for enduring Dornish weather. And we have a meeting in the tent with the various accoutrement of the family, and various meetings happen. And I think it's Alfred in a way that's like, is this the right thing that we're doing? Is this what we're meant to be doing here? I think it was Alfred, right? Or was it Rob? Please correct me. There was a lot of conversation that went on. I think it started with Alfred and Marcia, right? And then Rob comes in.
I think it was Rob.
Was it Rob first?
I think.
Rob was basically saying,
I was treating Rob.
You should send them. You should probably send these guys back. I think. Yeah. They're not gonna. Even if we get to Ironwood, Greenmont armies aren't going to be able to be any help to us there.
That's right. Everyone kind of thought they were there to be like as an army, but really Marcia was just like, noble people go places with people. I brought some people. Because Marcia is going to Ironwood in her head to give the halberd of their dead son to them, to be like, really sorry he died, and form, an alliance. She doesn't know Horatio's there. She doesn't know the Martells are there. She knows none of this. So she's just taken the best men she has and the ones she kind of trusts, the house guard. Because the rest of them have only just got back from fighting at Vulture's Roost. But yeah, Rob's like, this isn't working out.
The guys are looking really pink. Looking pretty raw.
And Alfred's like, I think Alfred's called in, right? I
Yeah.
come and grab your eye. I'm like, we need to talk. Come in here.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
pulled into the conversation because Red Rob's not doing well either. He's kind of beaten up, but he's healing.
Hmm.
And there's the concerns of, all right, what do we do? What do we do? And what do we do about Miria? You know, what is even our play here? What's our plan? And Mart's like, I don't know. We need to find out what's going on. We need information. I haven't been able to write her a letter. She hasn't been able to send us one, clearly. We don't know what's happening there. All we know is we've got to get there. And then Briar comes in and is like, your guards are shit. This is a bad plan. You should send them home.
Yeah.
And Marcy's like, well, we can't. Because they're with us.
I mean, Alfred was dead against sending them home. He was determined for them to battle through. I mean, essentially, wherever Marcia goes, the guard goes with them. You know, one way or another. That's what he was going with. So I think that's when I think Marcia decided to head north. I think
you suggested, wouldn't it be better if you came with men from Maekar or something? Like, if you're going to go to Ironwood and pick up Miria, isn't it going to just be better in general if you bring men from it? Because I'm sure it was Alfred that planted the seed, even though Meta was like, I'm going to go to fucking Maekar. You could do whatever you want. You planted the seed, and she was like, okay, I think this is maybe the plan, but then what do we do about Miria? And then it was kind of like a back and forth of, well, we could do this and we could do that. And Alfred, you should go. You should take the halberd. You know, as, you know, that the family's bastard in a way, as the second in command, because you're the master of arms now. You know, we should still do this. We should still go there, find out what's going on, and, you know, send word. And you can announce that Marcia's on her way. Because she has no idea what's going on at Ironwood.
No. Yeah. I think originally it was just from me and Briar to go. And then you had a lovely conversation with Rob where you wanted him to go with you to try and help with Maekar.
That was after a less lovely conversation with Briar.
Yeah.
So Briar,
was it really? Oh God.
Yeah, Briar had come in as we're like discussing this, and is like having a conversation with Rob at one point. There's some alcohol being passed back and forwards. Talks to Alfred, and then he kind of comments to Marcia, you know, whatever you say, boss. Be better if we had a lord as a boss, but whatever you say, you're as close to a god as I know, and, you know, I'll look after you, I'll do what you say, but also your plans are rubbish. Like, that was essentially...
And as well, after he insinuated that Marcia and Alfred were having an affair.
That's right.
I totally missed that insinuation. Totally over my head, because I was already fuming in Marcia. I was already like, this is not what Marcia needs right now.
Like some snide comment about interrupting the two of you in the tent, and then he was like, oh, it would be better if we had a lord. It was just completely out of line from the second he started opening his mouth to the second he closed it. Like,
I think because he'd come in and he'd been tending to all the guys. He'd been like, drink some water, you idiots, you're never gonna make it. I'm an ex-merc, I know. You were all useless. So he comes in, and Marcia does not take this very well, but she kind of wraps up the conversation, lets him leave, and then she goes out. She needs a walk because it's tense, and she needs to stretch her legs and not be a caged cat for 5 seconds. And then she sees Briar on her way out, and she basically says, you know, you speak to me like that again, I'm going to hang you from the Godswood so everyone can see what a traitor you are. Because that's the one thing Marcia doesn't need. And Briar spoke a lot of her internal fears, which was everyone's going to believe a lord would do a better job. She's already had Oliver turn around to her in that first season and say, you can't lead this house, you should be married. Not in a, you can't lead this house because you're useless, but in a house needs a lord. Come on, think this through. If your child isn't a son, we need to be keeping momentum here. And obviously he knew about Alfred, and there was a whole thing there. But so, you know, this is the internal monologue. This is all the doubts. This is her father showing up and being like, you're into magic, you're unfit, and all this. And Briar is just putting this out there in a confusing way for her. And she just had enough. And so she tells him not to say it again and smacks him in the most aggressive thing Marcia has done in her entire life. And she hurts herself more than she hurts him because she doesn't answer a punch. In my head, she just like clobbered him with a fist. Like, she went to slap him, but did it with a fist. So didn't punch, just kind of clubbed him, and it hurt her more than him. And he took it and she walked away. But yeah, Rob comes to Marcia and says, you know, I'll do what you tell me to do, but there's someone who's been here for me and, you know, has helped me out a lot, and I want to help him. I want to, you know, face whatever he's going to face and be there. And Marcia's like, you know, you're half dead, right, Rob? And also, you know, you're the last surviving witness who knows anything about anything, right? Except she doesn't say that. But she says to him, give me the night to think about it. Because this is me being like, all right, Don's telling me he wants to go and play at Ironwood. But also, I knew that you had kind of built Rob in an interesting way. So I think this is a good time to talk about Rob.
Yeah. So when we first, because playing came up so suddenly for me, I hadn't really delved into Rob's backstory with Tom or with Jason. All I knew about Rob was what we had established in the game when he was an NPC. And just maybe like a sense beyond that and what had happened since then. So after the first session, I still, I didn't start working on some of that backstory stuff until after the first session this season. So before the third session, when we played again, I had developed a little bit more of his history with his parents, his military service, which is, he has this sort of unique path where he's not like Alfred. He didn't join willingly the military. He didn't fight in the Blackfyre rebellion, even though he's a little bit older than Alfred and he could have. He was a street thief, and his parents were nobodies. His mom was like the local prostitute in Fox Hollow for a long time. His dad was a sellsword, this mercenary who kind of came through town every once in a while and claimed to have wildling blood. So Rob got arrested for thievery, and it was Alfred that bailed him out, and that's kind of what that conversation, he kind of starts talking about a little bit of that Alfred bailed him out when Alfred came back and was knighted. And that's how he became a squire. And somehow from there, he became a knight through just through random happenstance, not really through his own merit, because he's not a very ambitious person. In the meta there, I was kind of torn because I know that I haven't necessarily, like, Rob's actually maybe more of a social character than he is like an actual warrior. So when I thought about you going up against Maekar, I was like, as my Dawn brain said, well, wouldn't it be nice if I was also there? But after establishing the history the week before with some of the other players, knowing that like he lost, he didn't have anybody else in his life that had cared about him besides Alfred, and Alfred's doing, it's not like going through the Dornish Mountains, the Red Mountains is easy or safe. It's dangerous. It's dangerous with an army and it's dangerous with two people. And so I kind of had to really think about what I wanted, and I didn't decide until like right before that conversation, basically. But it was a fun conversation, and I didn't know, if it was going to turn into an intrigue with Marcia. I didn't know what she would decide. When she said, "I'll give you the next day, Rob," I didn't know, if that meant that the next day she would tell Rob that he was coming with her. I would have been okay with it. Either way, it would have been fun. But I did enjoy that scene a lot. And I also enjoyed because the entire night at camp is just like us rotating and talking to each other at different points. And there's like different little intrigues going on. And Briar's just like stomping around, which is a lot of fun. And I thought that was the scene that we haven't got to do a lot of in this campaign. Like the entire campaign with four of us together, we're out on the road. And, it's the open night
it reminded me of an early scene that Marcia had with Alfred, kind of discussing the early vulture that we captured, where Marcia didn't really know what to do and she was playing at being Lord. And it's Marcia again in the same position. She's playing at being Lord of the house, and someone comes to her and is like, I think we should do this. We saw her ask Alfred, what do you want to do? Tell me what you want to do and I'll think about it, at the house kind of thing. And he's like, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And so that's what ended up happening. And here's Rob saying, this is what I would like. This is what is important to me. But, I'll do what you tell me to do. And Marcia being like, all right, I need to think about this. Because the other thing that Marcia is thinking about, of course, is that she's going to go and speak to Maekar, who is probably the person she fears most in the entire world. And I think Rob, in a way, is like the remains of Oliver to a degree. Like, that's his squire. He was there with Oliver. He knows things that she doesn't know. And she's already sending Alfred off again to Ironwood. She'd already committed to that decision. She knew Briar was going to get chucked in there as well because she wants him far away from her. And she wasn't going to send him home either because think of the trouble he could cause there. And Alfred had kind of gone, yeah, I'll take Briar. But she didn't know about Robin. I hadn't really decided. And I was like, I could leave this up to a dice roll. But I was like, I'll think about it. And we'll see like what kind of happens in the night. Nothing ends up really happening in the night beyond these conversations. And then the next morning she calls everyone. She does her Lord of the House thing of, this is what is happening. I am going to Summer Hall and you are all coming with me. You and Rob, you can go to Ironwood.
The smile is great. Yeah, I personally, because with the creation of Rob, me and Don actually started chatting about what kind of relationship they had, and it was quite interesting. We just chatting and bouncing off ideas here, there, and everywhere to fix in with a backstory that I already have put in. Not everyone knows about Alfred's backstory, but it's there, and it might come out organically in the role play. But it was really, but it didn't kind of twig for me just how close Alfred and Rob was until Don did his speech about what Alfred did to him in the past. That's when I kind of went, okay, wow, they're really really close. They are like best friends. They have been together
Band
for
of
all
brothers
these years.
stuff.
Yeah, kinda, really is. And I like the idea that with all these responsibilities that Alfred has been thrown on, as sad as it is, that has kind of moved to the back of his mind a little because he's just so focused on being the person that he needs to be that he's forgotten those people that were there beforehand, and Rob being one of them. And I just like the idea of in my head, like if it was a TV show, Rob steps out of the tent just after that conversation and looks around, sees Alfred. Alfred's just busy going like that, just looking around. And they just kind of, they turn and look at each other. And Rob just does a smirk and Alfred smirks back. And then, but he's immediately back into it again because he's got too many things going on. And it's just nice for Alfred and for me to know that there's Rob there with him, that he's got his back. I think just that little thing for Alfred is enough to know.
I think that's such a powerful theme in this whole game, isn't it? Is every character needs someone watching their back. And we see a lot of the loss is you're losing that person who watched your back all the way through. Maria's gone through it a few times. Marcia's gone through it a few times. Oliver has experienced it in, he gets through the Battle of Vulture's Roost and suddenly Peake is acting war king. And he's like, fuck you, Oliver. No, I'm king of this mountain. And we see that turn and Oliver's so confused by it. And, it has happened a few times. And Alfred has been kind of Marcia's man at her back for a degree. But we've never asked who's on Alfred's side. We've seen him with Babelbrook, that's still one of my favorite scenes when you two go and fight the vultures in that first season. But yeah, I agree. And it's another scene that we haven't done a lot either, where we have reflected on that theme.
I mean, for the longest time, Alfred, in his mind, probably didn't think he had anyone. For the longest time, he felt that he had to do all this for himself because he had there's a theme with Alfred. He had this ideal of what a knight was, and he was trying to aspire to this impossible ideal of what a knight should be. And he felt he had to do it on his own. But as the character has developed, for everything that's happened, I feel that he's now realized it's impossible to do it on his own. And he's now more kind of willing to use allies to get help from others. It's not all on his shoulders. Although he still has a lot of responsibility, he's not afraid to have help from others to do that. Because he's had to. Through his experiences.
Yeah, because you were a man alone when you originally arrived in Essos. You had to fight for yourself, but you were one of many at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, you'd lost Alex, you'd lost the house, you'd lost anyone who gave a shit about who you are and what you've done. And here's Aegon Rivers going like, this is what a knight is like in my country. Get in line, soldier.
Yeah. And then...
And you did.
Well, that was it. Well, it just went back to the time where he was in the military, and he just went on to that. And that is what he's known. He's known military life, and that's pretty much it, really.
I high key hope that we get an Alfred and Gal reconnection. I hope they cross paths again. You know, that tie into Essos, I think, is something that I hope we get to explore a little bit more, not in a it's you kind of way, in a I know a few guys now, because Alfred has suddenly had a life experience, right? This outside of Greenmont.
Absolutely.
End up in King's Landing again, you see a big tall buff lady, you're like, hang on a second.
You're coming with me, come on, let's go. we need knights down south, right there.
That was the other thing actually that was discussed that night, just really quickly cycling back, was there was the discussion of how many men can Marcia buy. And she kind of did it as a figurative thing where she's thinking about it, but she kind of put a pin in it and was like, that's a problem for tomorrow, Marcia. Today Marcia has Miria as her focus.
I think I've probably done the math because I always forget the answer. Like back to season 1, like as soon as Oliver started collecting money, which was pretty early on, I kept doing the math on like how big is my army if I want to hire a bunch of sellswords, and the answer is large. You could hire a pretty large army.
I think it's like 20,000 men or something that you got for like a year or something, right?
I think it is maybe like 6 months but like long enough to wage a campaign, right? Yeah. 20,000 men, 15,000 men. That's enough for a potential revolution.
Oh, right? That's huge.
Because others are going to fall behind you.
That's multiple houses worth of armies.
And you got And what normally happens in war campaigns is that the number doesn't stay the same. You conquer a place, you absorb their army, and you just continue on. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's
we see that with Rob's army in the story.
Yeah.
He grows it on his way.
And Robert Baratheon, it was the same deal when that war started. So yeah, I mean, there's money and we haven't really touched on the Iron Bank in our campaign, but that's always another thing that's lingering, right? Like that's always another option that's out there. I don't know that it'll come into play in this campaign, but I always like the idea that, you know, I mean, I hate it as a person who hates the idea that money can buy power in real life, but in game, I think it's really interesting because it always provides other options.
Just saying.
Thinking about sorry.
No, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I was saying, thinking about like Alfred and Rob and Briar all there together. Like I sort of see like the Alfred and Rob relationship as like this sort of like fox and the hound kind of thing, you know, like because they are very different, right? And they have very different values, but they're friends, and they've always been friends since they were really young. And it's the question is our values, are we still going to be able to stay friends when you're a knight? And now I'm a knight too, but like we're not really. I don't know what Briar is yet. Like maybe like the pit bull or like
the owl.
The owl.
The bear.
I do like the idea. Oh, that he would. Yeah, he's a good bear. But I like it though. I like the idea of the 3 characters together, at least for an episode or two. I think
I think it's a great setup. The three characters, it's such a great setup. It's buddy cop movies. It's the Three Musketeers, or the Three Wamigos, as I like to call you. It's our three sad boys, and all of you come from this lowborn background. None of you want to particularly be who you're having to be, right? None of you particularly want to be in this position. Alfred would quite like to be a knight, but he wants to be like the romantic style knight who goes to tourneys and stands around, has, you know, a nice time, but isn't asked to do anything particularly political, or, you know, asked to order hundreds of men to their deaths. Like, that's the bad part of being a knight that no one wants and no one really talks about. And, you know, as we've seen, Rob doesn't want to be a knight. He tells Oliver, because it makes my feet hurt. Fuck it. No. All this walking about, not about it. I want a quiet life in Fox Hollow, thanks very much. And Briar, he wants to retire. Please stop making me watch the road. Please just let me be at peace and don't fuck this up for me. And I'm super excited to see the arc all three go on, and we see a bit of the arc you go on when you start going through the Dornish Mountains. So if we can continue with this, and then we'll hop to the other character.
Yeah. Okay, so you move into, you're going down to House Fowler, I believe, down the Prince's Pass to get to Ironwood, and you're stopped by a bunch of Dornish House Fowler guards, and they're like, who are you? What are you doing? And you're like, hey, Rob goes, hang on, I'm gonna go up here and sneak so I can fucking yippee-ki-yay motherfucker these guys if they start. Meanwhile, Alfred's like, hold up, let's talk to him. Goes up to him, he's like, hello, I'm with House Greenmont. I'm trying to get to House Ironwood. And they're like, Ironwood? Pfft, nah, you ain't getting past. Fuck those guys. And Alfred's like, you Dornish fucking pigs. You have no honor. Yeah. Spits in their face. And then Briar's like, hold up. Can we pay you? And they're like, no. How much? Nah, that ain't it. And then, who then, like,
it was 20 stags, right? It was 20 stags, and then they were like, wait, 20 stags each?
Yeah.
Or, you know, what's the deal here? Because that ain't enough, fam.
Yeah. You could have said like 20 dragons. You could have said anything. Nah,
I mean, I think they would have had a price, but I think it was significantly higher than 20 stacks each.
Hey, it was an upgrade from 2 groats.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I forgot about
2 fucking groats.
Oh, and then I can't remember who actually managed to speak to them.
Well, at that point, Alfred was like, right, okay, we're probably not getting through these without killing them. And we've been told with strict orders not to kill anyone. So what we'll do, and so in my mind, at that point, Alfred didn't feel fear. He knew Rob was there. He had his back. Anything happened, Rob was jumping in, and that would have given us time to sort them out. So he wasn't scared of anything like that. So in his mind, he was going, okay, fine, we'll go back the other way. And he was just going to wait until nightfall and then just sneak across. You know, that was his plan. You know, avoid any contact whatsoever. But then Rob comes down, like Jesus.
Came down from the mountains.
And that was the moment I realized Rob was a social genius.
Yeah, because Alfred
had so many dice.
And Briar like turn their backs and walking away, and Don's going, did they give me a signal? Anything that I could read as a signal.
Yeah.
I imagine like in this moment, you know, you're surrounded by mountain passes, like cliffs on either side, and Rob's like climbed up to the cliff, and he's like hanging off the cliff with like one of his knives in his mouth.
Yeah.
He's ready to jump down and stab these guys.
That's it.
And like he's watching Alfred and Briar, and all he needs is like a little head jerk, like, you know, just like anything, literally anything. And when they don't give it, then I decided not to kill them. That was a tough decision.
Yeah,
I was in a prime.
You were
position.
torn, weren't you? You were so torn.
I think I had Charlie messaging me too or something. One time, like I gave you one rule.
It's been one day.
Yeah, and Alfred was trying so hard to keep to that rule.
Yeah. And you come down, and the Fowlers look like idiots because they hadn't seen you. And they're like, oh, yeah, we've got men everywhere. And it's kind of like, there's our guy that was everywhere. You didn't see him, did you?
Yeah.
And then Rob comes in and is like, look, fam, we need to have a conversation right now. And it was the best political play of the season.
Yeah. Can't believe it worked.
I like the idea of like Rob is just like, he's a down-to-earth person. He's a logical person. He knows how to talk to people because, you know, he grew up in a tavern where all sorts of people come through, you know. And even though he's lowborn, like he's actually really good at social situations. Even though he's not like a gregarious person, he can still be very compelling. And so like in that moment, I think he just he basically says like, you know, I know you hate them and that you have a long history with the house, but there's actually a war that could happen and it could affect your house and your families. And right now you can do something about it. And, you know, it's just that like, it's a very straightforward way of trying to compel them. And because it's a game and I had good dice rolls, it worked.
Yeah. So can I ask a favor? When you come to Ironwood, can Rob talk to everybody, please?
Well, I was thinking that. I was thinking in my mind, I don't think I did it as role-playing because we just carried on and went to the next scene.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, Alfred went to Rob afterwards, goes, next time you're talking and I'm the one up in the mountains.
I think you did say that on camera.
Did I actually say that?
It was something similar. Yeah, something really close.
I think I said next time you're talking or something like that. But yeah. Because
oof.
Yeah.
It was a great play. If this was Overwatch, it would be play of the game, and then it would be Rob. But yeah, tensions were dissipated as you made your way through, and it was in the nighttime as you were making camp to rest. This figure approached. Oh boy, someone we haven't seen for quite some time. It was Kizano, the Red Priest from the beginning monologue of season 2, the one who gave the prophecy about if you marry this
the lost
girl,
episode.
The lost episode. If you marry this girl, the way will lie unguarded and doom will fall to dawn and blah, blah, blah. And he showed you again, Alfred, the prophecy, right?
He did, yeah. After some massive insubordination by Briar.
Par for the course at this point.
He did. He showed Alfred what was in the fire. And I don't know why Alfred really did it, to be honest. I think it was just curiosity more than anything. He probably heard about it when he was in Essos. No, Tyros, sorry. About Red Priests and stuff. He doesn't know because he's a follower of the Seven. So he just thought, oh, well, if this guy... He probably didn't even think it would work. He thought, oh, this mad, you know...
Just humoring him, right? Just getting through the night without picking a fight.
Yeah, exactly. He's too tired. He's too annoyed. Let's just get through the night. Yeah, something that is so it's just like, oh shit, kind of moment.
So does anybody remember exactly what the prophecy was?
I do. All right. So the prophecy begins. Because I loved the scene. Everything about the scene spoke to me. It's everything I love. It's magic, but not magic, and I like that shit. So Alfred peers into the fire, and it begins with these 2 scorpions. They're on top of like this wall of this gatehouse. And they're fighting, just these 2 scorpions fighting. And then the sands of dawn kind of up and shift. And suddenly the scorpions are 2 knights in black copper armor fighting away. Windows, now is not the time. So they start fighting. And it's going on. And Alfred's trying to get to them. He's trying to push through. But this storm is getting bigger and bigger. This great big sandstorm keeps obscuring things. And the knights are really like getting into this fight. And suddenly down from the sky, Dragonfire is coming down and it's hitting the sandstorm and it's turning it into crystals and to glass, and Alfred's now trying to peg it through, and it's all like swirling and kicking off around Alfred, and it ends in just the destruction of the scene as far as we know, and Alfred is like cuts off the vision, like that's it, that's the intensity. But so we get 2 scorpions, we get a sandstorm on a gatehouse, and dragonfire comes through and floods the scene and makes it all the more perilous.
I mean, I think we all know, right, what that's about. Don, I got a very good message from you like the day after the episode, if you want to elaborate your theory.
What did I say? Let me go find this message, because I type a lot of stuff.
I also had a very good message from Don about this. There was a lot of conversation about it.
Where is this?
Okay,
so here was my... Wait, are you talking about my conspiracy theory?
Hang on.
About the sandstorm?
About the sandstorm.
Okay, so this is... I think a lot of this is kind of... You can guess, but I think the sandstorm, obviously like the Scorpions and the Knights, I thought were Francis II and Horatio. And I would say we haven't gotten here yet, but I would say events since then have further confirmed that is a very likely future scenario. And the sandstorm itself, I think, is Miria or Casella Sand, whichever. The dragon could be Maekar. We know that he's moving with an army in the region. It could be the Targaryens in general. We know that other princes are coming down into the Reach right now, and they can mobilize armies. And then the gatehouse turning into glass and crystal. This is my personal tinfoil, but I feel like that's House Ironwood taking over the world.
Well, the gatehouse is nearly certainly Ironwood, because that's your emblem, right? You guard the way. You've got the gatehouse basically as your logo. In the original vision, the great thing about visions is because they're interpretive. I think originally it was meant to be Oliver and Horatio having this fight. See, Oliver can't be there for the fight anymore, so very likely it's going to be Francis, who's the other Scorpion. Scorpions, interestingly, have appeared in the Crownlands, but I don't think this is tied into that. It's just an emblem for Dornish fighters, right? It's just the same thing. A sandstorm, again, reinforces its dawn. But also, I'm with you. Like, I think the turbulence is Miria. I think what's interesting is in the vision, we see Alfred is pushing through and trying to get to this place. So I'm thinking this implies, Alfred is in a race to get to Ironwood. Alfred is going to head into a war zone, a battle zone. And this could be the political zone that we already know it is, or this could be a literal fight that's going to break out, which not impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I that's very similar to what I was thinking. Like, there was a time limit, and in his mind he was thinking, I have a time limit to get to Ironwood and get Miria out before everything just goes. The way I saw it was that the two Scorpions fighting are going to be the destruction of Ironwood, and the fire is the Targaryens kind of like saying enough's enough, and that is the end of the Ironwood household, that it's completely destroyed. They torched it to glass. Like, that's it. There's so much fire and flame that it turned the sand to glass.
Well, it's kind of the story of Harrenhal, right?
That's it. Yeah, I think it's kind of imagery of that they're going to Harrenhal Ironwood. So Alfred's thinking, I got to get there, get Miria out before this happens, before Ironwood falls, and. The swirling sands, I kind of saw it as kind of like, as weird as it is, like sands in a time glass.
Yeah.
Going round. That's time running out until he gets there. So that's
it's the classic nightmare thing, right? You're trying to get to a point, but you can't run fast enough, or there's something in your way. It's like that classic. But the thing that's interesting about this vision, the fact that we've got it twice, it's the first time it was delivered. It was delivered to Horatio and Marin Martell. They were both warned by this Red Priest and told, don't do this thing. Trust me. Both of you, it's bad news. Mostly you, Horatio, but both of you, this is a terrible idea. Stop this marriage now. And Marin Martell was like, we're doing this. Yeah. That was the interesting thing, was Marin Martell was like, we are doing this. Horatio, no, you don't get it back out now. We made a deal. So...
This was
Horatio
how
is not passive.
began, right?
Yeah, this is the start of season 2.
Yeah, so I know we don't have that on YouTube anymore, but like this red priest showing up, that's why if you saw in our faces any panic,
I saw it.
and,
Yeah,
and you know you
I
happen
knew
to miss
who
that
it was,
episode,
yeah.
it's like no.
Yeah,
But-
for sure.
When at the end, you know, because he was, I mean, I was horrified, Rob was horrified, and he was horrified. Was he horrified? I just can't remember if he was horrified with what he saw in the fire or he was horrified looking at Alfred. Because when they do visions, it's from the person looking into it.
Rob,
Thing,
in my
isn't it?
brain, Rob didn't look in the fire himself.
No.
I think the decision that I'd made, and there's, you know, won't go into it, but like based on the backstory that I've created for Rob, he didn't want anything to do with this red priest or any kind of magic that they were claiming to do, and he wanted to protect Alfred from that, but he's respectful. When Alfred's like, no, I'm going to do it, you know, he sat there and he watched Alfred. And I think his fear is that maybe this priest did something to Alfred.
Yeah, it was
right?
some sort of
That
trick. He could have shanked him while Alfred's transfixed on the fire. We didn't know what this dude was going to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think it was a mixture of the two, right? Like, if you see the vision from the perspective of the person in the vision, then Kizano would have been like, oh shit, you're involved with this, rather than just being like an observer. You're going to be somebody who's there when it happens. I don't want to be involved with this. I've already got a price on my head because I spoke up. But
because Kizano traded this for food, right? He traded, it was a part of a trade. You give me some, like, it was either like companionship or whatever it was, and I'll give you a vision.
Yeah, and a bit of food, and he'll give me a vision.
Don't shank me in the night, and I'll give you something.
But like, you can imagine like a red priest just doing this to an average schmuck they come across, and it's like, oh, you're gonna bang a bunch of chicks, or you go home and you've got a kid, and he's not expecting to see the same vision of the house Ironwood falling down, the way lying unguarded.
But what if he sees Alfred and he knows he's a knight, he's probably a Reacher knight, right? And he's got to get this vision out because the people he's already told are not listening to him, and it's still a vision, it's still vague, but I think in part he wants to tell this story, he wants this vision to be out. He's run for his life from Sunspear, because that's where we last saw him, which is 1,000,000 miles across Dawn, across desert, or far around the coast. He's made it a long fucking way.
He's an Olympic sprinter.
But my question is almost like with makeup, where is he going? Like, this is the big question. But basically, I think it's just as far away from the Mars as possible. But
yeah, I think he's trying to get out of Dawn, to be honest. I think what he says, I'm pretty sure I ask where you go, and he says as far away from Dawn as possible. He's just trying to leave. So, I mean, it could be just that. It could be just the two Scorpions represent a civil war in Dawn. You know, it could
either
be
way. I feel great about it. I think it's a great process.
It's gonna be great.
I can't wait. It's gonna be so much.
I can't wait.
I've been
waiting for it
personally, I'm hoping that we arrive just as people are just hammering the shit out of each other, and we're like, we gotta get Miria, go, and we just get in there, and Miria's there just hacking away at people.
I have this vision of Rob ending up using Oliver's halberd, because you've been given it to deliver them, and I have this vision of it being Rob he's cornered, he hasn't got another weapon in that moment than the one he's meant to be like handing over, and he just starts using it.
See, I always liked that really cheesy Robin Hood thing, right? So you arrive just as Miria's being brought out to be executed. You pull off some Robin Hood bullshit and you go, Miria! And throw her Oliver's halberd, and she's like, fuck you!
Alfred shoots the rope like her noose, and she falls down.
We did send a sniper to Ironwood.
Well, I'm just saying.
Second best archer in all the Seven Kingdoms.
There's a lot of targets there that I can.
Then
just
Miria,
one shot.
With Oliver's halberd, straight into Ratio.
It's and then
she dies because fuck.
Yeah, well, you know, worth it. And then Alfred does the one-liner, and then that was it, wasn't it? So
we just do a trampoline somersault over the wall and we're away.
Yeah.
It's basically foolproof. But the reason why Miria will need to be busted out of an execution, we'll get on to, because we'll move on to our very next episode, which was...
Well, the thing that we missed in this episode that we didn't cover is Marcia gets to House Peak, and she meets
That's
Baby
right.
Peak. And she manages to talk him around. If you heard, young Tali, young Uncut, they're really shit. And they're the ones that done got your father killed. I don't know if actually Oliver did it, but at the end of the day, trust me, it was these guys. These guys did the bad thing. Your father, you know, he had strong principles and people used that. And like, so she's kind of framing it like, I didn't blame Peak. I met him, not the smartest cookie in the tool shed, had principles. Didn't agree with those either, but whatever. And she kind of brings young Peak into, let me camp here for 2 nights. Don't blame me for what happened. We're good. And you know, it was a pretty good conversation. It worked out. He had a tiny temper tantrum. They bonded over suddenly being heads of house.
Mm-hmm. Just young Peak is an angry boy. He's had a lot dropped on him, and he punished those that failed his dad.
He did. I mean, it gave me ideas, not gonna lie.
I mean, kid seems to have that shit on lock, honestly. I mean, there's worse friends we could make.
He's a lot like his dad, except for he's not gone insane yet, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think he needs... what's his army like? He still has an army. I think he needs a young, half-Dornish wife that's even-tempered and good at court, and then he's got the army. I'm just saying.
If only I knew an even-tempered, half-Dornish woman. I do not. But at the very end of that bit, we find out, like, Marcia... Pete comes to Marcia and is like, we need to have a conversation. Maekar's on his way. What do I do? Marcia's like, I should probably mention Maekar's probably pissed at me. I understand if you want me to go. I'll go. Don't worry about it. He's like, no, it's fine. It's fine. We got this. But what do we need to do? And Marcia's like, I hope you speak Valyrian. Because that did not go very well for her last time she met Maekar. But that was basically like that tiny scene. But we found out Maekar was basically at Peak's castle at that point. He was well down the road. So Marcia didn't have to go all the way to Summerhall.
No. Which will bring us on to our next episode, to What Dragons Desire, which apparently was named for something that Charlie said.
I think I was discussing like not knowing what Maekar really wanted. Like I can't speak to What Dragons Desire, but he probably wants to hear from me or something like that.
Yeah, you said something like that, and Sam was very impressed. And that became the episode title, as Prince Maekar arrived at Starpike with a host. Let's not forget that he has a host with him. And he's coming up to Marcia and young baby Peak to have a little chat. But that's not where the episode started. The episode started once more in Dawn. And Miria goes up to Mama Ironwood and she's like, hey, Mama Ironwood, we need a chat. Can you just come? It's gonna be so awkward. Come with me, we'll have a chat. So she like leads her to her room, and like Daira moves in front of the door, and Miria's like, so your son's a shitbag. Hate to break it to you. Here's the evidence, and hands it over and shows Helena. And there's a pretty long intrigue between the two of them. And the thing is, Mama Ironwood is a fucking intrigue beast. She's disgusting. She's so scary. And it looks like Miria's making some way. Like, she's all like head in her hands. She's like, what are you talking about? What is this, he wouldn't do this. What's going on? Like, this isn't right, and blah, blah, blah. And Miria's like, look, I've got the evidence, right? He's screwing you all for personal gain, like for some money. Like the history, the pride of House Ironwood is gone, or is about to go, because one dude wants some money and position. And it's really tough because Helena was very hesitant to believe that Horatio would do that. She's got tons of excuses, like, oh, in Dawn, necessarily marriages aren't always arranged by the parents. That's not always how it goes. And why are you so concerned about this? You're not even one of us. This means nothing to you. Go home. And Miria is like, but it does mean something to me, because Oliver's my god's father. He raised me basically as a kid. He's saved my life. He brought me here. And when he comes back, he promised me that we would make something of this house together, that we would, fix my reputation. We would restore Ironwood to its glory. And we would make our ancestors proud. And she's like, fam, you're a kid. Like, I expect this kind of talk from an old person, but your generation's supposed to be the one that's about peace. You're like, we live in peacetime. You're talking about revolution. And Miria's like, well, you gotta fucking die for something. You gotta stand for something. And there's one thing like I haven't really discussed like in game, but I feel like over this course of the show, Maria has developed this very strong sense of justice within herself, and it showed last season when the Men of Iron would beat up Daemon, and Maria was like fuming, like she was so furious about it, and she sees a lot of injustice in the world, and I think that she believes getting Ironwood under Oliver's control and like building this little community is like her step to making good steps in the world, into improving the status quo. And she was very much like, this is just what's right, and you can be with me or you can be against me, but please, when the time comes to it, don't forget. And Helena didn't seem to be swayed. She turned to Daemon and she was like, let me go. One scream and everyone will know, and they'll come in here and you'll be dead. And Daemon took the documents from her and Helena left. And I think for the first time in a good long while, Miria felt properly defeated in that room, because she was like, fuck.
It was like, in terms of the dice rolls, it was very close.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't rolling the best.
Nope.
For Miria. So like, unfortunately, like a lot of things didn't land. But I think what we saw here was Helena saving face, right?
Yes.
We know she doesn't hate Horatio, and she's never said to you she doesn't believe in her son in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of had a weird reaction to Oliver for a lot of it. And I think, she's used to she was running the house. She was head of house, and
Mm-hmm.
she knew Horatio was off doing his own thing, whatever. I think it did hurt her that Horatio went and made this deal. She was already hurt by it. But she's not going to admit that to someone coming in and being like, you should fucking do something about it. Because I think she knows. And I think she just went to that defensive place, right? Of, well, it's none of your business. It's nothing to do with you. And also, I think she felt the fear because she knows Horatio is an undermining little bitch. And he probably murdered her husband. Maybe. We don't know. Tinfoil. Right? And if she wants to exist, wants to survive, to see anything more of this house, to have any part in it, she plays the game. She's that person. She kind of bows to Horatio, waits for him to get bored, leave, go away with Maren Martell to go do whatever the boys do, and then she gets her house back, right? So I think that's what we were seeing from her, but I think we also know Miria was striking. She was still getting hits in. But for Miria, I can see, like, this is a huge thing, like, you believed in me, we made an agreement, you're helping me, you agree with my cover story, and now you're not listening to me? And this is the first adult that's kind of gone to the Miria, shut up, I don't care.
And it ties into that sense of justice for Miria, right? Because like her and Oliver share very similar ideals. Like Oliver was also pissed about the Ironwood guards, and they had that moment together where they're like, this isn't right, but we'll fix it. And for this time, it's that thing as a kid when you see something bad happen and you tell someone and nothing gets done about it. It's like as a kid when you're getting bullied and you tell a teacher and nothing happens, and you just like follow that, well, this isn't right. And it adds to that little fury and frustration. And Miria was absolutely feeling that in that scene.
And being 13, you want something done then and there. And it feels like a massive betrayal. And I still high-key think Helena walked away from this with cogs whirring in her head. And whether that's like an outright challenge to Horatio, which is what obviously Miria would love, and maybe Francis would like, whatever, or it's Helena playing the game, she plays the game. I think she's still going to act, and how she acts, I think, will have been influenced by Miria as well. But I think even ongoing, the cogs were already there. But I think being presented with evidence and knowing that someone else knows what you've had in your gut, it's, it warps you a little bit.
And Miria didn't lose the intrigue, right? It was a yield.
Yeah,
she quit the intrigue. So like there was no compromise. It just it didn't finish.
Exactly.
There was like a time on it. I think you had like one last chance, like one last dice roll, and Miria was pouring 1 point her heart out. Yeah, pouring her heart out, and she just couldn't quite get there. So maybe Helena's not, maybe she could still come around. But she's also shown that, in my opinion, that she can't really be trusted either.
We already know. The thing is, we already know Helena can't be trusted because we know she's a deception beast.
we know that she has
Mechanically,
a high
we
deception.
know.
Now, I guess it's possible that her deception could be high, but she could still be a good person, and that's just like
Well,
how
yeah,
she's meant to survive.
I actually think she still could be a good person. I just think she's I agree with you. If I were Miria, I would be wary how much I invest into it, but I still think she's an incredibly good ally for Miria. Miria's just got to, in Helena's view, be smarter.
It's
because
possible
Helena's
that-
playing a longer game, right?
It's possible that Helena is part of whatever this overall conspiracy is that's going on. You know, she could be not the ally that Miria needs, but the one that but like the snake in the grass. Like, we really don't know because she plays things so close to her chest.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope, like, for Miria's sake, that what she said landed, and that by the end of the episode, when the thing happens and Miria can be like,
Helena wants Ironwood to survive. I think that's 100% true, regardless of whose side she's on. But what survival looks like is different for a couple of different
I think
people.
as well, because Oliver is exiled legally by the Martells. I have doubts about them. But because he is, Horatio is the head of the house, right? He is the future of House Ironwood. And when she said, Lady Jane is a lovely young woman, she will grow to be a good, dutiful wife, I'm like, she's fucking boring. She's gonna be shit. Never mind, she's 10. It's just some little inward rage. But like that whole, like, this is the future of Ironwood, and it sucks right now, but the name will live on through these people. And I think you're right about Helena being a survival kind of person. But so had that intrigue, and Helena quit. Was 1 point away from beating her. 1 point. She had 1 composure left. So if I had not tried to retarget and I'd have gone for another influence, it should have been done.
You were going for the insight influence as well.
But never mind. There's no sense crying over spilt fake grandmoms. Cutting back across the mountain.
It builds the juicy fruits though, and
it does.
And that's the thing about intrigues, is it's okay if you don't succeed the first time.
Yeah.
You just got to live long enough to try again.
And I fully feel like both that and the 6 glasses of wine I drank by the end of the episode really informed Miria's reaction to what happened. That she was frustrated because she'd gone to someone she trusted to get it fixed, and they didn't do anything. So being young blood and not being quite as tempered yet as maybe she should be. And I think like she's feeling a little bit overconfident too, right? She's got Francis on her side. She's building up a little support. She's feeling strong. She had that dream about Salistria, like they're coming. Miria's really confident that the hammer's going to fall on them really soon, which is why she acted at the end. But moving on, we cut back across Dawn to Starpike in the Prince's Pass, where Prince Unky Makey arrived.
And the scene didn't go anything like I thought it was going to. He comes to the gate, and the new Lord Peak, Young Peak, whatever we want to call him, Baby Peak, greets him in Targaryen, which was what he was told by Marcia to do. Not in Targaryen, in Valyrian, sorry. And Unky Makey instantly turns around and says, "That's rude to the lady." And I'm like, what? What just happened here? And we're completely back-footed from what we'd expected this conversation to be. We didn't know that we're pretty sure Maekar didn't know that Marcia was there. He probably could have gotten an update, but it seems like that he knew Marcia was there. So we knew he was probably coming to Starpike for a reason, either, to do something there or on his way somewhere else. But yeah, so that's the start. And then we go into the hall. Maekar kind of makes himself at home and, sets the situation up. Calls Peak out on having 3 castles still as the house heraldry. Should only be 1. You've only got 1 castle. Who do you think you are? And basically challenges Baby Peak's patience to the limit. Maekar 100% knows who Gormy is, knows his temperament, knows his son is going to be the same, and he puts this kid through a trial. Baby Peak, bless him, goes down on his knees, presents his sword. "No, I swear to you, Prince Maekar, we're going to be good." And Maekar's like, "All right, stay there." And so he's there with this sword like this. And then Maekar turns to Marcy and was like, we should have a conversation. I got your letter. And I'm like,
You what now? Huh?
and I agree with a lot of what you said. I was like, I haven't even had to roll anything. And I'm like checking my gin and I'm like, yeah, I had half of this, so that could be it. And, it's just going really well. And he's being friendly and we're talking. And Marcy's like, look, I got to tell you some stuff. And he's like, you explained to Baby Peak why his dad's dead. And Marcy's like, okay. Tells the story that she's just told Baby Peak last night, basically. Same story that's in the letter that Maekar's got. And she's trying to make sure Baby Peak keeps his cool. So she's trying to frame it well enough. Did I mention young Tarly and young Oakhart, by the way? Throw them under the bus as hard as she can every time it comes up, because that's what she's playing with. That is also her belief. She believes they're evil. She believes they've murdered multiple people in her household, not starting with Oliver. That was just the end point. So, she's telling the story, and Baker's like, yeah, what she said, that's 100% right. But you know who else is really bad? That Blackmont guy. He's a bit shit, isn't he? If that hadn't have happened, none of the rest of it would have happened. Isn't that right? And Marcy's like, maths woman. Yes. Because, she doesn't really know what's going on, but she had incited this war to get Miria back because Blackmont had taken Miria. That was her understanding. No way is Miria a spy, Maekar. That's ridiculous, and you know that, and I know that. And he's like, yeah, we know that. We know that because we know that Blackmont did this. And Marcy's like, sure. Yeah. He did do that. She doesn't know what happened because no one's told her really what's happened, but she knows Blackmont's dead. She knows who killed him and a lot of that stuff. And, we're kind of back and forth and Marcy's trying to really hammer home, Miria's not a spy, right? We're good on that bit. And he's like, yeah, sure. No, yeah. 100%. She can't be a spy. It's ridiculous. Blackmont did this. And Marcy's like, wow, you're really focusing on that Blackmont thing, huh? And I was not rolling well either in this intrigue. Anything I did wasn't doing anything against Maekar. We already know he's built like a god in terms of this game. He's your end boss. You don't try and persuade him to do anything he doesn't already want to do. So that's kind of what I leaned into as well. And I think what Marcia leaned into was, we're not going to try and tell him to do anything he doesn't want to do. We'll maybe try and tunnel it a little bit and make sure that he's hearing our points, especially since he seems to be in such a good mood today. It's very strange. It was so disconcerting. And so, the intrigue kind of goes on. We talk backwards and forwards a little bit. And it ends up with Maekar announcing that Baelor's going to be at Highgarden. Don't worry about the Oakhearts. Don't worry about that. We got you there. Baelor's gone. And we're like, what? This is when I'd hit the bottom of the pint of gin and we were going to move on to glass 2 very soon. And so we had a moment with that. And he's like, yeah, there's 3 of us down here right now. It's a lot of problems, don't you think? And Marcy's like, yeah, I hope next time you visit, it's just because we got nice weather. And he unveils this plan that he's going to go to Blackmont and erase them. There can be no Blackmont problem if there are no Blackmonts. He's going to take his army, go to Blackmont. And you know what, Baby Pig? It's time you saw some war. You're coming too. Marcy's like, don't think that's a great idea. They haven't got anyone to inherit Mr. Maekar. He could just stay here. Watch who's the champion. Maekar's like, nah, he needs to see war. He's a young lord. He needs to see the shit. Don't worry, he'll be on a hill with me. We'll be fine. We'll be buddies. Marcy's like, all right, I'm not going to argue because that's going to get us all killed. Sure. And so Marcia essentially agrees with this plan to be Maekar's ally, to tell the same story she's telling now, to condemn Blackmont, condemn the rebellion. He's going to go get rid of Blackmont, and then Miria's name will be cleared, and everyone's going to be happy. No one's going to go to war because you know what? They'll see what happens to Blackmont, what happens to traitors, what happens to people who defy Targaryens and dragons, and a pound of ash is better than an ounce of promise, which is a killer line that Greg came out with, which I think we're going to see in the title of an episode at some point because
oh yeah.
So he is going to basically Reigns of Castamere the fuck out of Blackmont. They're going to be gone. This is his plan. He's going that way. He's taking Peak's men with him. And you know what? He's a Targaryen prince. Very few people are going to argue with this man about what he's doing. And Marcia had no reason to. There was no way of gaining by trying to defend Blackmont. They haven't been her ally in any way, shape, or form as far as she's concerned. I'm sorry, Don.
I'm sensing that Don has some feelings and thoughts.
But
here.
Marcia does point out that Blackmonts are meant to be bannermen for the Martells. Like, is this a great idea? You know, is this gonna help with peace in our time, dear Maker? But at the end of the day, he's got Marcia's son. He controls Miria's life, and we're about to try and get Miria back. And,
which, by the way, he was very specific with his wording there. He didn't say she could come home. He was like, she can visit.
He actually didn't, because when we rewatched it, I listened, and he said, of course she's free to go home. He didn't say she could stay home. That was the thing. It was
where
worded.
does he consider Miria's home to be?
Oh, that's it, isn't it?
I did rewatch it, and the way it was phrased was, you know, she can go back to Fox Hollow, but it definitely didn't say forever, she's not a ward anymore, etc., etc. But her name is clear, and that was enough for Marcia. Like, that was the most ground we've made in this entire game. And Marcia was like, all right, you know, you said how we should be better allies, and you kind of have a plan for that. What exactly is this plan? Because I'm there, and I'm like, he's going to tell us we've got to make a marriage, right? Either Marcia or Miria is going to have to marry someone. This is what I'm preparing for. And I'm like, I could live with it. Who is it going to be? And he's like, 2 tutors are coming from King's Landing. And I'm like, huh? Run that by me again. Yeah, 2 tutors. Because I met you. You're pretty dumb. And you need to catch up, girl. Because you're going to be my champion. You're going to be the cooler of my word. And I need to make sure you can say it in Valyrian. And also, you know, 2 people to keep an eye on your house. And I'm like, that's not the worst. I can live with that. It's going to suck, but it could be worse. And she was like, are you sure? No marriage? I'm just a lady, you know. Shouldn't the house have a lord? Because she's just been told that several times by people. And he was like, no, you're the lady regent. You got this. If you want me to play matchmaker, I'll play matchmaker, but you're lady regent. And she's like, well, Leo Tyrell called me the regent. I'd rather you did. And he was like, I got you. When we're done with Blackmont, I will send a letter to everyone. You will be regent by Targaryen rule. And Marcia was like, that's pretty legit. That no one can argue with that. And so basically this intrigue, even though I didn't win a single role particularly, I still got nearly everything I wanted. None of it is guaranteed. And Maekar brings up magic later, and we'll come to that. And none of it's guaranteed, but nothing is ever guaranteed. And Maekar already had all of the ammo to use against Marcia anytime he wants anyway. So really, any gain is a gain in this situation. Because he could just blast Fox Hollow out of existence. We've only got a hall. It's very flammable. No one watches the roads. You just walk through there and then take off Blackmont's head. But he's like, no, for real, we're going to be allies. You're going to help me, and I will help you. And it was scary.
All
it was
you've got
more
to do
scary.
Is bear witness to a massacre.
Well, he didn't even ask her to go. He was just like, you just got to say. And she's like, all right, sure.
Well, doesn't she have to go with the troops?
That wasn't part of the condition in the conversation. He didn't even ask her to send troops to Blackmont. None of that was a condition. The reason we're raising this is in the meta, we've had a conversation with Sam about where Marcia is going to be next, and she is actually going to go to the Blackmont scene because we kind of want to see what happens to Blackmont. And I kind of suggested that, you know, we're going to have to go via Fox Hollow, probably. So let's go that way, because there's no point in Marcia going to Summerhall right now because there's not very much that can happen there. So yeah, Marcia's going to Blackmont. But yeah, in the scene, Marcia didn't have to do anything beyond basically tell the story she's already telling. And he low-key did kind of ask her permission to do what he was going to do, but also her permission doesn't matter. So if he wanted to burn Blackmont, Blackmont was being burnt. I would have to have rolled, I think, higher than is possible for Marcia to roll to persuade him off that course. And we found out that Marcia's son is fine, that Maekar takes him for starry walks. Very delightful. We found out that he's pretty cool with the magic. He knows about it. It's all right. Everyone's got their gods. Everyone's got their thing. It's all right. And he said that twice. I'm like, sure? You sure? Feeling well? And then he's like, yeah, you know. And you should have a conversation with Brendan Rivers. And Marcia's like, I think I've met him. And he winks. And that was the most disconcerting thing of that whole conversation. Maekar winked at me. And he failed a charm roll, which was adorable. But Maekar winked at me.
I am more terrified than I have ever been if he was a dick. I am petrified.
Hey.
Yeah.
Listen, okay, Maekar. I have a long list of people, long list of individuals in this world who are terrible people. And Maekar has now shot up to the top of my list. That entire scene, that entire episode, it was so gaslighty. And it didn't even need to be, because he, like you said, he had the power, but he still tried to give Marcia the idea that she could have some of the power. He didn't commit to anything. He didn't commit to Miria coming home to Fox Hollow. He didn't commit to sending Marcia her own child back when he never. And it's different. It's a change. It's a purposeful change from the previous session where he said Miria will never come home. Miria is a traitor. I'm going to take your child. And now he's back and he says, no, your child's happy. You can come visit. He's not committing to anything. He basically asks Marcia to make herself complicit, at least at some level, in the genocide of a Dornish house, even though he knows he has more information. My opinion is that Maekar knows what's going on. He knows that House Blackmont is not at fault for what happened, but he's not going to put a Reacher house. He's not going to crucify a Reacher house, because that would look worse for House Targaryen. It's a lot easier to crucify a Dornish house that's already suffering and is already being looked down on. So there's that avert, in my opinion, racism from Maekar, like all of these things, like that. I think that's why it's so terrifying, is because
it's a convenient scapegoat, and it could happen to anyone.
It could happen to anybody. And gaslighting is scary. It is scary when you think that somebody believes one thing and has told you one thing, and now they're saying another thing, and it feels good that they're saying that thing, but they could go back the other direction at any point.
I've said this to Susie and numerous people. This is peak cult leader behavior, right? They put the fear of God into you, and you never want to experience that again. And then they treat you like they love you and they care about you and they want to support you and they want you to succeed so that you need them. And you also still have that fear of God. At any point you do something, they can turn on you and it's over. And it's a rock and a hard place. And so you stay in the middle in the hope that you survive it. And, Marcia, at the end of the day, there was no choice in that scene. Marcia, no matter what, had no choice in anything going on. It was how many people walked out of that scene still alive. And he could have taken whatever he wanted from Baby Peak. Doesn't matter. Okay, the Peak forces could have had a little scrap. Who's going to fight a Prince Targaryen? That's outright treason. That's outright straight execution. No ifs, ands, or buts. You put the life of a prince in danger.
Baby Peak in that scene, he is the one that's getting bullied, right? His arms are shaking. He's in agony as he's holding up this sword, and Maekar is constantly sniping at him. Then he turns to Marcia with the smiles and the charm. Like,
he was playing both of them.
Yeah.
But the other thing about that, though, to keep in mind, though, is there is a witness in that room. He did this in front of everyone. He didn't play Marcia on her own in isolation like he did last time. This time he did it in front of his men, in front of the Peak men. And I think in part, Maekar believes his own bullshit, right? He's just one track minded. He's like, I'm just going to annihilate this little problem. Everything else is going to go away. And we can all move on. And whatever, she can have that girl back. She's useless anyway. I still keep her son, because Marcia didn't even try to get the baby back in the scene, because she saw how the tide was going. She's like, I'll take this far. We'll worry about that later. My son's still alive. Whew. Let's keep everyone else alive in this moment. And she does preach for peace, and she does try and talk him around, but it isn't going anywhere. And she also gets sucked into his bullshit because she wants peace. She doesn't want a war. She doesn't want more and more people dead. And it's like, you know what? If this does stop this, fine. These aren't people that have done anything to help anyone else. They did take Miria from Summer Hall. Fine. If this stops the war, I don't want a war. And yeah, she is 100% complicit in the execution of this house. But also, I have things about this house, right? What is Blackmont up to? They go to a battlefield because they get a letter from Miria saying, yo, your father's here. He's probably in danger. He shows up with a little army, meets Mara Oka. Mara's like, this isn't for you. Go home. He's like, all right. turns around and goes home. He doesn't contact anyone as far as we know about any of this. We don't know what he's been doing. We haven't had someone in Highgarden find out what he did there, if he went there at all, or if he's messaged Martell's. We know probably he hasn't messaged Ironwood because we haven't heard anything, but we do find something out about that relationship later. So we don't know what's going on with Blackmont, but we're going to go and see this war. And I have a tinfoil. I have a tinfoil about this battle that I'm going to raise right now. I believe Blackmont, the Vulture King Blackmont, is still alive because we didn't see a body. And I'll tell you why, because I think it fits the imagery of this whole storyline of a vulture. You know, circles the dead is there. And the Vulture King is someone who reincarnates. That's the story of the Vulture King. You know, this powerful person. He got flung out a window, broken, bruised. And he's maybe even, you know, a broken man who's now just propped up in the chair and orders it about. But I think we're going to see when we get to Blackmont, we're having this siege, we're having this outright genocide, another force coming from Vulture's Roost. We're going to see the Dawn show up, and it's going to be Vulture King Blackmont, and it's going to catch Maekar off guard. I still think Maekar, probably with the host that he's got going, it isn't going to be a particular problem, although he is sieging a castle. And we know Blackmont has a reasonable army who weren't involved in any fighting. The other thing, actually, I just remembered, the other thing Marcia has against the Blackmonts is the story that Alfred told her, or rather was told about the battle that Alfred fought, where Alfred went to go and fight the raiders and protect the Blackmont people, and the Blackmonts kept their castle shut. They didn't send anyone out to help their small folk. And in Marcia's head, that is like the worst. Like, those small folk are your people. You look after those people with everything you've got. You don't just close your fucking gates and let whatever happen to them. So in her head, like, that's a black mark on Blackmont's name. You don't do that. You protect your people.
I am here for the anvil being the Blackmont forces and the hammer being Blackmont right at the back, just to smash the shit out of Maekar, give him a taste of his own bullshit.
And listen, for Marcia, you said Marcia is kind of in the middle. Well, the middle is a great position to be in if you want to stab Maekar in the back. I'm just saying.
He's up on that
hill. I don't think that would help Greenmont or Marcia in any way to shank Maekar.
Come on, cross the line.
Do it.
She has no one to tell her to. No one to give her. No one has given her a good reason to tell her Maekar. Maekar at the moment is the only one helping her as far as she's concerned. And yes, it's bullshitty. I agree. And yeah, he can drop her at any time and she's got nothing. Right now, she's got a tiny bit of hope. And that's the most Greenmont has had in a very fucking long time.
You take the wins you can get and keep your head down when you're playing with a Targaryen.
And I think this is Marcia being a Greenmont for the first time. This is what the house was meant to be. And historically has been, they play both sides. They go where the wind is blowing, historically, when we built them. And they just happened to lose out at Redgrass. Like, we've done very well historically playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, this is Marcia also getting a taste of someone treating her like the Lord of the House and doing her best Lord of the House act. And she's getting better at it. But we don't know what's going to happen at this Blackmont thing. And yeah, I think it's a terrible thing to do, to just clean up your problem by massacring an entire family. Pretty shitty thing to do.
I think it's going to be one of those horrific things where they do literally just massacre every single one, and Blackmont is just wiped off the face of Westeros. I think
that could well happen as well.
And you say you're going to do a siege. I don't think Maekar's going to do a siege. I think he's doing their killing.
Well, he hasn't got a dragon, right?
Storm in the castle. He's just going to send wave after wave of men at it.
That's a siege. Care. Like, he's got to get into the castle.
But well, yeah, he'll just.
Then again, he could just walk up and be like, "Hey, boo, open the front door."
Yeah, and then go in.
He could 100% do that. Although I think this is Maekar. I think he's kind of peaky. He's got that anger in him. He's got this fire. He's just going to send the forces charging at the castle. I think the castle is going to lose very quickly. I don't think it's a long siege, but I think this is going to be an outright attack. I don't think he's going to play a game to get in there.
I don't know that the army is going to be there when Maekar gets there.
That's the thing, because moving on to our very next scene, Miria is she's writing letters because it's been very busy at Ironwood with all the guests. They all want to send letters off. So Miria's like fucking stuck in the solar all day writing letters, and the maester's fallen asleep. So she's like, I'm gonna go sneak these things back in. And so she does. I did flub the stealth roll a little bit, the thievery roll a bit, and it took her like quite a bit of time to get in there and put them back. And as she did, Horatio is behind her, and he's all like, "Hello," and she's like, "Hey, how you doing? I wasn't doing anything suspicious. Don't mind this. This is fine. Don't worry about it." And he apparently just didn't even seem to care. And he's like, "Oh, I've got a job for you. Can you write a letter for me?" Oh, come back to focus, camera. And she's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Like, come over to my desk. She sits down, get the little thing. And then he starts dictating this letter to Blackmont, to, I believe it's Raymar, who is currently the Lord of Blackmont. It could be Marwyn. Either or. And he's like, "I need some of your forces. I need them to come here, as a gesture of friendship, just solidarity. We are old friends, the Blackmonts and the Ironwoods have a long history together, and we want to keep up. I've heard about your dad. Sucks. I'm sorry. But as a gesture of friendship, I need you to send me your army." And Miria's writing it down in her head. She's like, "What the fuck? Why do you need a fucking army?" But he's right there, right? As he's dictating it, he's walking around in front of her. So as much as she'd like to be like, "Yo, don't fucking come here," because Horatio's a wanker, she takes down the letter. And then he's like, so here's why I think Horatio knows exactly who Miria is. Because after the letter's done, he comes over and like takes her by the shoulders. And he's like, "We'll go send it together." And he like walks her up to the aviary. He grabs a raven, puts it in her hands, and he holds her hands as she throws it out of the window, right? Like it's like that creepy, he's behind her as he's holding her, and like, it's a very control sort of domineering.
I feel like we know he knows who she is, because she basically gave him her actual name at one point early on in their meeting. Yeah. But I think this was an expression of him going, "I control everything about you." This is him asserting dominance in the most genteel way he could, which makes it the most skeevy way he could. But I think this is him going, "I can make you write whatever I want. I can make you send whatever I want." I don't think particularly this was him going, "I know Blackmont's your uncle." But he does know Blackmont is your uncle, so also that's helpful. So yeah, I kind of don't think it's as like meta as we're like playing it maybe, and like it's an outright, "I know you're Miria Greenmont and your uncle's Blackmont." I think it's more, "I control you. Check this out."
Yeah, it was a test as well.
And you can't defy me in even the simple act. You can't, so don't defy me in a big one, because you can't even stop me from making you throw a bird out the window.
But you almost did. So like you really struggled with that decision, right? Because Sam like posed it to you. Do you want to try to slip your other, because you had another note or something?
Yeah.
Right?
Miria had another note on her because she was already planning to send a letter to her cousin being like, "Yo, look, we're kind of fucked and you're kind of fucked. Before your dad died, he did speak about our families, she was basically gonna float the proposal in a way of like allies, we're in it together. That, I hated what happened, and it's not right, we're going to make it right." And she'd make a little letter. She was going to send it off at some point during the day. And then here comes Horatio with his own letter for Blackmont. And if he hadn't been there with her the whole time, when it came to actually sending the letter, if he hadn't have been right there behind her holding her hand, she absolutely would have gone like and sent the second letter off with it. But yeah, he was just.
Was it a hard decision to make? Like, was that? Because for me, when I saw your face during it, it kind of like that's how I felt when Rob was like hanging upside down and deciding whether or not to kill these two dudes.
Yeah, it was me being like, it would be the big red stupid button to do this right now, because I know Miria doesn't have a very good stealth or thievery skill. So if she tried to sneakily do it right under his nose, there was such a big chance that she would fail and be discovered then and there, right? He'd literally catch her with a letter in her hand, and then she's really fucked. And I was like, because I'm a huge proponent for hitting the big red stupid button, as we find out later on. And I was like, but there's a time and place to hit the big red stupid button. And now
there are stupid buttons worth hitting as well. That was like a low ball, right? It's a softball. It wasn't enough. It wasn't a letter to Marzia, maybe.
No.
Or something like really significant. It was a, I have a kind of a deal that we need to back and forth on it rather than a nuclear warhead.
You save it for the most dramatic moment possible.
Exactly. And I mean, it turns out really that if Blackmont does show up with his army, that's probably not the end of the world for Miria, provided that she isn't dead in
I don't
a couple
know.
of episodes.
Well,
time.
that's the thing, though. He's turning up, answering Horatio's call. But my big question is, why is Horatio asking for Blackmont forces? Why are the Martells building an army?
Is he are the Martells building an army,
or is Horatio building an army?
Undercutting the Martells? Like the Martells think they have Horatio in the fucking bag, and Horatio's now going to make his move.
Right.
That would be good.
Right.
Would be stupid. So yeah, that's peak Horatio.
I would hate it, but I would respect it.
Yeah, it would be like, you fucking wanker, but I'm with you. But yeah, like, I don't know. It depends on what happens next, and that's the thing for Miria right now. For me, is it depends on what happens next.
Do you really think that Blackmonts would be happy to see Miria?
It depends.
Considering Miria got Blackmont killed.
It depends on what version of the story they got, though. And Miria did send them that letter that warned them on the behest of Blackmont, her uncle.
Claimed behest.
It happened at Vulture's Roost at the
No, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but they have a letter that doesn't prove anything. But yeah, you did send them a warning.
That's the only thing. The only reason they know anything about what happened to Lord Blackmont is because of Miria.
But then they show up, and Greenmont is like, "Fucking turn around, bruh."
But not because we're telling you to. It's for your own good. The prince is coming.
That wasn't what she said, though.
I don't know. I reckon.
She was just like, "Don't get in the middle of this. It's over. Just go. You've got a house now. Enjoy it."
I think he'd probably want to kill Miria.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Mara ordered him off of the battlefield because she knew his father was inside and they were going to take him. At that point, that's what was going on. I didn't think it was anything to do with the fact Maekar was turning up. It was, I need this man. You don't need him anymore. I think
if Miria got a chance to speak to her cousin, she'd be all right.
Oh, yeah, but you're just OP. Intrigue, that's why you'd be okay.
No, because apparently not.
She would tell them the truth of what happened, right? And that her uncle was murdered. Because he was. He was murdered.
He was.
By Peak. But yeah, so that happened. And then I think that was it for that month for Miria. And then we cut to later in the evening. And it's a big feast, and Maria's back up on the dais. She's right on the edge again, next to Lady Jane.
Hang on, there's one thing that happens before this happens.
What?
We'd finished having our conversation with Maekar, and there's a scream, and I'm
yes,
another half pint into my G&T at this point. And I'm like, fucking no, Sam. I want one meal when no one dies. But turns out, basically, there is a mama walking around Starfall, and he's where he shouldn't be. Starfall somewhere else.
Yes.
Starpike. And he's where he shouldn't be. And he gets picked up. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, just looking for the kitchen. And I was like, he's been here a week. He's some mama. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And he gets clobbered a little bit by Baby Peak, who just throws him and basically brains him for being a little snoop. And then it all comes out that he is here on the behest of Desmara. High Garden literally got caught with their hand in the fucking cookie jar with a spy at Starpike. And he's been there a week, and people are like, yeah, we know him. We know who this guy is.
Swear to fucking God, if that's the same mama that tried to follow
I think it
Alfred
is. It would 100% make sense in the time span that he was like, all right, I can't get to Fox Hollow. I'll reroute. I'm going to Starpike.
100%.
He also wasn't smart enough because we kind of skipped over it, but basically I think he failed in that he should have spun it that is like, yeah, I'm here to make a deal with Peak. I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and spun it so that he still lands Peak in the ship for it, right? Baby Peak, he knows me. I've been talking to him for a week. It's not going to save his life, but it's going to land Peak in the shit, which I think is probably Desmara's goal. He should have
spun it that he's acting on behalf of Lady Desmara Redwine for Leo
to make sure
Tyrell.
Peak,
to make sure Peak
isn't rebelling.
Yeah, but no.
regardless, Peake chases him out of the castle, and that man is very, very dead somewhere now.
Yeah, he just wasn't a very good mummer, was he?
No, he was a bad spy.
But it came out because in Sam's prep session, Desmara failed a roll.
Yep.
So go and watch that prep session if you want to see little things that are going on with other houses. There are some spoilers, so if you're not interested in things that aren't shown in our game, don't go and watch it. But it is up, I think, on the Follow Black Cats channel and worth a watch.
Allegedly, there was some incredibly juicy fruits that came out through.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I'm not.
I heard one spoiler.
Yeah, I avoided it.
And I'm not going to say anything, but
what the fuck?
Friends.
Anyway, so Feast, Dias. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Susie.
No, the spy thing is significant. So Feast, Dias, Miria's up there. Horatio steps out again, doing his usual. Oh, I love the Martells. They're my best friends. We're brothers. You know, you're in my family, I'm in yours. Come here, unzip those trousers. Let me slobber on that Martell dick a bit. It was disgusting. It was gross. Gets down on his knee, pulls out his sword. He's like, my lord, my prince, I give my house to you. But also, while I'm at it, you know these knights, they're incredibly loyal and strong and actual fucking kick-ass fighting force? Done. They're out. They're dissolved because they have the name of the blood royal and their tenants allude to decades and centuries of bad blood, and we don't need that anymore. We're such good tight friends. So these knights, they're done, and the whole like falls silent, and then suddenly like there's this murmur of the knights in the room are like, hey, what the fuck is going on? Some get up and storm out, some are like getting a little bit rowdy, and other people at the dais stand up, including Helena Ironwood, who's like, what? How could this happen? It's not like somebody told me this would happen today, this morning. I am so confused. And Miria's like, I fucking told... Hello. And so she gets up. She grabs her little cup of wine. She walks around the dais. She looks at Horatio Ironwood square in his face. And she throws that wine in his face, throws the cup to the floor, and begins to storm out. And I don't think she makes it 3 paces before she's like grabbed by a Gargalen guard, and she's like marched out of the hall. And that's the last we saw of Miria. But do you know what? When we talk about the big red stupid button, that was the time to push it.
Worth
it. So worth it. It was a really stupid thing to do. Incredibly stupid thing to do. She was in open rebellion at that point to the prince.
And it's the second time she's done this as well. Second time Horatio's having a big moment. Miria opens her fucking mouth or throws some wine. In the meta, I'm super fucking proud. Well done, brother. In the character, I'm just like, no.
I think it was smart. I think it was really smart. Like, I know it's an emotional response, but also in the meta, it's smart because one of 2 things is going to happen with that group of knights. Either they are going to dissolve or they're not going to dissolve. And by Miria, who, at least Francis II has an idea of who she claims to be, doing that, she's actually creating a possible more legitimate route for them to decide not to take it lying down. And now whether or not they'll actually do anything about that, I don't know. But she might have just won over the loyalty of like, I might be biased, but the best knights in the entire world.
It would have been nice. Like, I think it was like half smart. She's got like she's half baked at this point, right? It's just halfway there. It's like, yeah, you get those knights, but it's one order of knights. They probably would have been absorbed, right? And renamed and reformed as like the new Kingsguard or whatever. But yeah, she does know Frederick Francis, whatever the fuck his name is in on this plan. F in chat. And she kind of half has Helena because, she sees it. But it was the best moment to act. It was the moment she had. Simultaneously, the chick is dead unless someone gets her out of there. Because this is open defiance to a fresh alliance and it cannot be allowed. Right? And this is the dissolution of the Musketeers. The king has been assassinated. The Musketeers failed. They need to be gone. They're being dissolved. The Musketeers show up and they throw in half their shit, or so they seem to, until we find out later they actually haven't. But you know, it's the dissolution of the Musketeers, and we've just had someone go, all for one. And the King's got to come in and be like, maybe not.
Some for all, maybe. But yeah, like, I think from Maria's point of view, it was that frustration from earlier. You know, she'd spoken to a trusted adult with this information that she thought would help, right? And nothing changed. Nothing. Helena, as far as she was aware, said to her, like, fucking get over it, kid, go home, leave. And I think she's starting to learn, especially in moments of defiance like that words can easily be ignored. You know, she could be dismissed as like, oh, she's a fucking kid, whatever. She's just a nobody, right? Just she's words. But that's a humiliating thing too, right? It's not like she just went, you're a dickhead, and stormed out of the hall crying. She doused his face in wine. Like, he's covered in wine. Like, it's a humiliating act that she's done. But it's also an act of like bravery and stupidity, right? It was very brave of her, but very stupid of her to do it. And I hope that the knights there and some of the men would see that and be like, that's because a lot, you know, with like martial types, they respond more to actions than words, which is why I was very keen on Miria to be like present training and being there with the men training. So they were like, oh, this chick's here, right? She's here for it. She can pick up a weapon. She's got callous little hands now. She ruins all her dresses. Like, this chick's ready. And here she is, like, literally acting in defiance. And I'm like, I hope there's a moment where...
But this is why they basically, like, if they're smart, they need to make your punishment very quick and very permanent. Right? You remove the icon and you show people, this bullshit doesn't stand. This stops now. Don't even, it's not worth it. It's not real. And then, you know, you pay a few bills and you suck a few people into a new order and everyone moves on. You let her sit in a cell. That's a jailbreak. You have a huge public execution. That could be open defiance. You just get it done, get it quick, put her in a body bag. But this is the thing, right? Is we can see like a lot of our actions in a way can be seen as very reactionary and impatient. But that's because we're playing a game and we want the juicy fruits to be in the episodes and on the channel. And because this is a story, she's not gonna die in a dark cell really quickly at the beginning of next session, probably. We're gonna see this play out a little bit longer. She's gonna have, I think she's got one more shot.
Yeah.
And if that shot pays off, it pays off. I personally don't think she's gone far enough in any of her intrigues for it to be a done deal. But I think she's gonna get a shot. Francis is gonna come to her and speak to her, and that's gonna be your shot, or Helena, or someone like that. And then you've got the 3 Wamigos coming in. Yeah. And you know,
they don't, also Horatio, Martell's, they don't know that Oliver's dead. So in their understanding is that Cassella is Oliver's daughter. And this is Dorne, where the lines of succession aren't patriarchal necessarily, and where being a bastard isn't such a big deal necessarily. And so in their understanding is that Oliver's going to come back. So what are they going to do? Are they going to disband his knights, you know, these knights that share the same values as him, that he grew up serving with, and then kill his daughter so that when he shows up, like, what do they think the knights are going to do then? So I don't know what they do with Miria.
See, I think
that's a big question.
I can see it going a couple of ways. I can see them just keeping her in a cell, waiting for Oliver to come back, you know, so they can be like, we got your kid, get in line or she's fucking done.
I think that's dumb.
I think it is dumb.
Because Oliver gets back, you just ship him to the wall. It's done. He's over. His order's not here. His daughter is dead.
Here's the thing,
go to the fucking wall or die.
When's he coming back? The prince can't stay there forever. He's going to leave at some point. So I think they hold on to her in the idea that Oliver comes back. So it's like, right, you fucking...
Or I think the smartest thing to do is send you on a Gargalen ship far, far away.
I mean, they could
Temptation is gone.
But then
I still think they should keel-haul you personally.
I mean, that's because you're a horrible person.
I think they should strap you as the figurehead on one of Gargalen's ship. Call it the Dornish Rebellion. Just send you off and set the ship on fire and just watch it go burning off into the sunset.
It's because you're a monster.
I am a monster.
Here's how I think it goes. That either they keep her in a cell, and I think how it goes is the 3 Wamigos show up next episode. They tell them that Oliver's dead. Horatio comes down and is like, Oliver's not coming back. You're done. And I think Miria inside would be like, you're a fucking liar. But then she remembers that dream, right? She had that dream. She knows he's gone. And I think that's like a breaking point for her. Like, this would make or break her. Oliver's not coming. She's going to have to be on her own.
It is a race against, like, it's only a matter of time before someone finds out Oliver's dead. Because that word, Marcia sent out fucking letters to the hand of the king, all across the reach. The prince is, second in down in Dawn, and we get a memo from Baelor, Maekar, someone like that. Send word to Prince Martell, easy. Horatio is gonna probably, but it's most dramatic if it's the Wamigos that deliver this news, right?
Yeah.
If that is how it comes, and they think they're, bringing, they're honoring Oliver, and everyone's being very nicey, and everyone's like, mm. And then it's like, but where's Miria? And they're like, oh. Who's Miria?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have anyone by that name here.
Do we think that the Wamigos can take the entire Ironwood and Martell army?
You have to prison break like champions.
I think
All I'm
what
gonna
happens
say
is, oh, sorry, Tom, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say you've made it like 10 times harder for us to get you out. Really, it's great.
It's good. It's Gucci, right? Because you 3 show up, and then you're like, Oliver's dead, and we're here, just check on Miria. And Daira's like, Miria, shit, okay. And she's like, and then she's like, yo, Miria's in the fucking dungeons. That's not her name here. We gotta bust her out. And then out of the shadows comes Francis too, and he's like, yes, we do. And then jailbreak, done. Easy peasy.
I think you are gonna have to be very lucky for Daira not to be in a cell opposite you.
I was gonna say, we could arrive and you could be in a cell, and Francis too, and Daira could be on fire.
Wow, Don.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is Game of Thrones and not Dungeons and Dragons.
What do we do? What do you want us to do in that case?
Well, I think that depends.
What's our standing orders?
Where was Daira, right, at that time? Because she wasn't obviously up on the dais because she's a servant, right? Was she?
But she's always around.
She was in the room keeping an eye on you because we had that, because you looked at her.
Yeah, so I imagine like Daira was like at the back of the room and she's looking at Miria and she can see Miria's angry little face and she's like, don't fucking do it, kid. No, don't do it. Sees Miria, gets up, sees the wine, and Daira just goes whoop, slips out of the room and disappears because she knows that they'll be looking for her next, right?
Daira's a survivor, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's a survivor. I think she will have no objection for ditching Miria, throwing her in the deep end, just say fine, done.
Well, I think
that.
She could leave, but she's gonna go and find help. She's gonna go find a Greenmont.
Mm-hmm.
She's gonna go and find someone who can help her, because single-handed jailbreaking Miria is unlikely.
Yeah.
Although 2 people sneaking out somewhere is much easier than 5 people.
It wouldn't surprise me if the 3 Wamigos bump into Daira because she slipped out while everything was kicking off.
That could be
She
cool.
hopped out of the castle and she's like, yo. Stuff happened.
We'll have Briar create a distraction.
Briar, go talk to the prince. He'll go find
to chat to the prince.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And it's very interesting that the Martells are hanging out with the Gargalans just, on the jolly holidays, and they're hooking up with Ironwoods, who are a pretty powerful house in Dawn. Basically, the connection between Dawn and Westeros, they're there. Mm-hmm. They're the ones at the bottom. I 100% believe that the Martells are not satisfied with the fact they've married most of Westeros. They now just want it. They don't want it by queen proxy. They want it by being king. They don't want Dawn free. They want all of it. And I think this is what we're seeing is their little plot. That's what they're working on. I don't think it's going to work out. Historically, it doesn't work out in the canon. Mm-hmm. And we don't see any evidence of it. But I think that's what they're working on. They're like, fuck Aegon Rivers and the fucking Blackfyres. Fuck the Targaryens in general. This should be ours. Look, we're halfway fucking there. Our sons and daughters are already on the way to being princes, but fuck it. Let's be kings.
I think my
Bro-
my pie in the sky for Miria after everything that's happened is she and Daira get out. They go across to Essos to Bittersteel. This is again extremely pie in the sky, like crazy.
Yeah.
Miria shows up and she's like, dude, I got an inn with a little army. Like, they're tiny, it's 1 unit, but it's fine, we got an inn. Hook me
good.
up with Daemon Blackfyre 2. We'll get married. I'll reform House Blackmont. I become Vulture Queen. We take over Dawn and the rest of Westeros.
I like it.
Wow, you got
I like
high.
it.
I got
kind of
aspirations.
goals.
Go for it.
Dude,
But
you
yeah,
got
I think the Martell
aspirations.
plot is why Brynden Rivers is involved. I think that's what he is keeping an eye on. He doesn't give a shit about this little border conflict between the Reach and Dawn. Whatever, that's been cooking forever. It can be put down, it can be picked up. That's not important. What's important to him is Aegon Rivers still has someone with a claim to the throne sitting over there. And the Martells have this massive married-in claim to half of Westeros. I think
And
that's the
they've
game
done
he's
it.
playing.
They've done it in such a short period of time. It was 40 years ago. 40
Mhm.
years ago, the Targaryens finally take over Dorne. And then Dorne they push them back out and then they come back in. And then there's this sort of like after the Reach and the Targaryens basically just ravage Dorne as they've kind of occupied it. Then the Targaryen king comes in and makes peace. Things are smooth. He starts to marry off to the Martells, but it's only been 40 years, and so much has happened in 40 years. They've made a lot of moves already, but the current Martells, the current leaders, and most of the houses of Dorne fought the Targaryens in the rebellion. It's not like they're not even the next generation yet. Most of them, they're the same generation that grew up losing everything. Losing their independence.
And I think that's why we're seeing the Martells, they're marrying with those other families. So we got Diana Dane married to Maekar. Leo Longthorn is married to Casella Lady Fingers, or whatever her name is.
Lady Bright.
Lady Bright, that's the one. And, we're seeing that. We're seeing just everyone is married to a Dornish person, right? And it's usually Dornish women. And we're seeing these Dornish women fucking making moves on their own anyway. We know that in about 5 years, the head of the money for the Targaryens is one of the Targaryen sisters. That's going to go on very soon. And so there's a lot of women in power, but I think this is the men going, you know what? We could fucking do this. We've got the master of ships. That's the fucking fleet. So they can't move quickly around here. We can move quickly to them though. Sail straight up to King's Landing if we wanted. Especially since, you know what's really convenient? Maekar and Baelor are down in the fucking Reach, playing near the border over there, way off, like opposite end of Dawn from Sunspear.
I mean, strategically, just looking at it, if they go up and attack King's Landing, let's say they do it, they go to attack King's Landing. You said yourself, Maekor's got an army in Blackmont South. And King's Landing, I would imagine, is pretty well defended, right? It's kind of like a fortress city, really, when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to take a while to take that. Maekar could just go, well, they're attacking King's Landing and they've left Dawn completely undefended.
But you know what's happened?
Let's go have some fun.
It's not even that, though. You know what's just happened, though? Maekar's just attacked Blackmont. The Targaryens are attacking Dawn. Dawn cannot stand for this. Thank fuck the Martells are here. Let's go.
I mean, it's very
right?
possible.
That's the angle that you play.
That's the perfect thing, right? Because, like, if what we suspect is
the
true,
Reach have been picking on us,
and Costain is angling for a war, everybody for their own reasons is also angling for a war. I think we're headed for a Dawn rebellion, like a big conflict, because the fucking Targaryens are just about to wipe a Dornish house off the map. Like, you can't just do that. I think, there's gonna be a big conflict.
And if you are going to attack King's Landing, you want to do it from sea. Like, that's where it's
that's it.
Yeah, if you attack it from sea.
Yeah.
And this is the thing as well, is Maekar can turn around and march back up there. But he's got to march all the way up there, and it's like 2 months walk.
It's a long march.
With an army.
And in the meantime, they're just rolling over houses. They're taking over, they're building their army. And they can swing by Tyrosh on their way up.
Yeah,
right?
they want to.
Right?
Yeah.
If
it's just across the water. It's a narrow sea.
Right. If they want to pick up the Golden Army on their way to King's Landing, it's just sitting right there.
I mean, there's a lot of racists in that Golden Army who didn't like Dawn. Do you reckon they'd go up with the Dornish? I mean, it would be more likely that they would wait.
If it's not just Dorne, right? If it's not just Dorne versus the North, but it's also like Highgarden and some of these other houses that we know are involved in whatever this conspiracy is, then they can sell it as Blackfyre 2.0.
And they don't have to rush it, right? They're still laying groundwork. This is what we're seeing. We're seeing groundwork still being laid. They have to make their play sooner rather than later at this point, because it's priming up to be like a perfect time, either by their machination or by coincidence. But I mean, the best game is just not to act and just stay where you are. You've already got princes and princesses being born that half fucking Dornish.
Yeah,
You're already
in. The fact we have already decided that the Martells are dumb enough to try this. You know,
I think they're ambitious, and this is
exactly
it's Game
Oliver's
of Thrones.
Yeah,
this is my entire game plan for the first 2 seasons.
Copied him. Oh, that's why they got rid of. That's why Oliver had to die, not because he was outspoken and stuff, but they wanted to steal his plan, and they couldn't have a copyright claim on it.
Well, they needed to take Ironwood, right? So they had to make sure Oliver was gone.
Like Vulture Roos, you have that meetup with Oliver and some of his allies, right? Like Gorman Peak and Oliver were friends. But when it came down to it, Oliver said, "No, this is my thing. You should all follow me." And they said, "No, this is our thing. Oliver, you should follow us." And he said no. Then I think that was it. They both had the same. I think the same plan was kind of building.
Old Tarly's on board though.
Right.
Oliver did get Old Tarly on board.
And we don't know what he's doing, which is very curious.
Oh, I'm pretty sure Tarly's out and he's staying quiet.
Old Tarly was like a follow along, right? He didn't make any moves himself. He was like just the yes man at the table, but would supply the army.
And in the
bedroom. It's a really
good army. It is a very good army. It's the biggest army in the Reach. If not all of the houses that Sam's rolled, I cannot remember, but it's like one of the biggest, if not the biggest. It's a huge army. But yeah, this could 100% Costain could be working for the Martells, and he's just sowing the seeds. And Oliver Ironwood is a blockage that's annoying for so many reasons. The Martells, and they just wanted the house as well. So, like, this is our big tinfoil. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
Or it could be just the Martells securing Dawn for themselves. Like you said, Ironwood's already been, like...
I mean,
a staunch against Martell. They're just solidifying their grip on all.
They've already got it. That's the thing, though, is they've already got it, so it's not really like an improvement.
But here's the thing, though, right?
They haven't.
Oliver showed up at that tourney, and we keep forgetting that in episode 2 or whatever of the first season, Oliver
stuck 2 fingers up.
Oliver rode with Blackfyre colours, and Myron Martell was there. He saw that, and I think that did that ring in the back of his head of like, oh, so he slipped the poison to Horatio, like, get this motherfucker out of here because he's a problem. That didn't work.
And I hate him.
He's tacky and I hate him. That didn't work. So then the next plan was like, shit, okay, then we need to get Ironwood under the thumb, which is Horatio. Come here, I've got a kid. She's like 40 years your junior. But
it's just like, you don't want to go to the wall? Well, have I got a deal for you?
Yeah.
So it was 100%, I think, that anti-Oliver measure from the Martells at that point, because he clearly showed that he was back and he wasn't gonna go quietly.
Maybe this is just their way of getting back against Oliver. Maybe they're not thinking big. Maybe they're thinking, well, Oliver insulted us. We're going to destroy
anything that matters to him.
Everything he loved. And we're going to do it in the most horrific way possible. They're going to have his brother in charge of the entire house that he absolutely despises. They're going to disband the knights that he created with him, and to himself. They've got, like, his kid.
They've destroyed Greenmont to a degree by getting them sucked into this huge plot that's going on in the Reach. To a certain
extent, it really could be
just that petty.
For the Martells, I think that's possible.
Yeah,
but that's not what Costain's up to, though. Like, there's definitely a bigger thing too.
I don't know what
Costain is for sure inciting a new Dornish conflict. 100%. He's trying to get some shit started.
I mean, he could just well be working with Aegon Rivers. He's just destabilizing things.
I don't think so.
I don't think it's for like a come over now, but the more unstable things are, the more hard work the Targaryens are going to have to do, right? The more resources they're having to use, the more people are bitching because the Targaryens aren't managing peace. The Dornish are all involved. We hate it. Can this stop? It's just building an atmosphere, right? It's building a stage for when Aegon Rivers is ready. You keep causing trouble, right? You don't let them sit into a nice, comfortable peace where they can stockpile and they can make friends with everyone. You try and divide everyone.
If the kingdom's like a mess and at war with each other, it just reflects that it's a weak king.
And Dawn is a really easy fucking place to start stirring, right? You don't start with the Starks in the north. That's going to get you nowhere. You start where there's already people who just hate each other flat out and have hated each other for a long time. And you just poke.
So easy. So easy. Yeah. There's so many theories.
Yeah.
Only Sam knows.
I don't even know if we're actually going to find out everything either.
No,
I feel like we'll know most of it soon.
Well, no, yeah. We do know that this is the last season of this arc, right? This is the last season that we're doing of this arc. We don't particularly know what we're doing next. I think we do know that we're going to keep playing because I think we're all going to fight to play. But I think it's been like so interesting, and I think all of the characters have gone on an arc, but I think this final step is a huge development for everyone. We're seeing Marcia go to war in a way,
like
with the Black
polar
Horns.
opposite to what she was so
She's a confident leader of a house. She's not in a great position, but we have heirs now. That's nice. We've got no Oliver, but we've got these 3 upstart guys, right, in various positions in their life. And Alfred's gone on this huge arc that we know where he's gone from I want to be this idealistic knight to I am this knight and I've got to do these things. And I think he's on that but I want to do this the right way. I want to be this person and actually deciding who he is. And I think what happens next will shape that even more. And then we've got Rob, who's, you know, we're seeing the start of his arc because he's new to the game in a way. But it's also like the end of a part of his story where it's like, I was this squire, I got tortured for this house, I'm now going somewhere with my best friend and we're going to do something good, you know. And we've got Briar, who's, I want things to be stable at my house. I don't want my children to be afraid of raiders coming in. I want to see, you know, this house survive because that's good for me, and then I can retire and live a happy life and get out of the way of these children who have no idea what the fuck they're doing. But I think we're going to see him have to try something heroic. I think we're going to see him have to do something like be courageous like Maria has just been in some way and face something more than just I'm a merc with a sword. I think that's what we're probably going to see the situation. I think that's really exciting.
Step up and stand for something he believes in rather than just for
what he's paid to do what is vaguely in his interest to do. And then Miria has gone on this huge arc where she's gone from being, you know, her dad's daughter to her new dad's daughter to Uncle Blackmont's daughter very briefly, and, you know, so on and so forth.
Daddy
so now she is like, I'm going to take this house. I don't care if it's mine or not. I'm going to take this house. I'm going to free Dawn because she's 13, idealistic, and has been fed a lot of propaganda by a lot of people. Yeah, and it's just in that position, and she's like, this is what I believe in and I want to do something, for fuck's sake. I'm sick of things always happening to me.
I blame Oliver for that.
Miria's
putting ideas in her head.
Miria's arc is her finding her power and using that, right? Because she had none at the start and now she's getting some, and it's going to get her in trouble and probably get her killed at the age of 14 like 100%. Robb Stark. But
happy birthday.
But yeah, you're not wrong, Tom. She has been fed propaganda, a lot of it by Oliver.
Oh yeah, Oliver's terrible. If we look back at Oliver, he's probably one of the worst for warmongering throughout the entire season. If you really,
he is the worst for warmongering.
He's terrible at it.
But I think Maria's got the highest incidental kill count.
Yeah,
she literally had 4 armies go to war.
It's just we liked him so much we let him get away with it. We're just like, yeah, go on.
No,
let him do it.
Well, we've got a big question mark about how Redgrass went down. And this is why I'm hoping, in a way, either that we do a flash forward so we get to see, you know, the future of the house. Because the whole point of the game is that you're playing a house and it's about, you know, points of their history. But I also hope that we do a flashback because I would love to play up to Redgrass. where we already know the conclusion of Redgrass, who lives, who dies on that field, but we don't really know how exactly we got there. We don't know the politics leading up to that point. And I think it would make a great like mini season, or
I
one
think it'd be a
season.
lot of fun.
And we would get
You
to
could-
meet all of these characters that we've spoken about and kind of have a mythos for, but we don't know. Sorry, don't go
I
ahead.
think Redgrass would be a lot of fun to end like a little, like if we did a Blackfyre rebellion, little mini campaign. I think the Dornish rebellion, because we don't know what Greenmont was really up to during the Dornish rebellion so much. That's a really open period of time of recent history that directly connects to Blackfyre.
And then if we
I think-
flash forward, we've got spring sicknesses in 10 years. And then after that, we've got tons of mad Targaryen shit that we could play through before Robert's Rebellion happens. Like, so much interesting stuff happens.
And we don't even know how we're going to ultimately change the timeline. We've already changed it in
Well,
small
that's it.
ways.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But by the end of this campaign, we could change it in a major way.
I think we've already fucked Blackfyre too, right? Which is when Daemon the
there's no
second
Gorman
came
Peak.
over, because Gorman Peak was the lead architect of
that was his baby.
Yeah.
I think the safety net of that is that we've got Baby Peak, right? He's the safety net for that plot. Like, it could still happen if he just has to change his mind about whose fault it is. And that's it. He just starts working himself up into a Gormy rage.
He has a really
Gormy
low
rage.
Gormy rage, which he does really well. He's a spitting image. He has a really low intrigue defense, right?
He's a baby.
He's a kid.
I'm just saying it would be
I'm the
really
same age.
easy
He's a
to
baby
incite.
with a fucking tantrum problem.
It'd be really easy to incite him, like the mechanic, the technique insight at the right moment to just,
That's why I'm saying, right? Once you break me out of jail, take me to Starpike, and we got him.
We already got him.
No, but we'll extra get him.
Are you telling me you want to marry Baby Gormy? You want to marry Ellery Peak?
No.
He's a nice boy.
Mary doesn't
a little
want
bit
to
of a
marry
temper.
anyone.
Wow, that's a long-lived legacy. That worked out really well for a lot of people in this room.
She'd marry Harris because she thinks he's cute.
Oh, Harris.
That's
I can get
first
over
crush.
Harris.
It's a
Still at
crush. Leave her alone. Okay, but we've really drastically run over time. It's 20 past 11, friends.
Yeah.
Tom is literally transforming into a pumpkin right now. I see it happening.
Yeah.
I think, all right, I'm going to say right now, I am the most excited to see what Alfred ends up at the end of the season. I think everyone else is going to have really juicy arcs, but I'm very excited for where Alfred ends up. Because he began and where he is now.
So, one final pie in the sky scene for everybody. What do we think
love
it is
these.
at the end? For your character, where do you think you are? Mary is obviously Vulture Queen, duh.
Of course.
At the end of this campaign.
I think it ends with Miria climbing the seat to Vulture's Roost and sitting down.
I think Marcia becomes the Lady Witch for the Targaryens.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Holy shit. Yeah.
She messages Brendan Rivers and is like, you gotta teach me because I've hit my limit and I know I can go further. And he's like, all right.
I got you.
And she's like the Lady Witch for the house.
Ooh.
I don't know.
I don't think this is my objective, but I always imagine, I keep getting this image in my head that for some reason Rob gets sent north to the Wall, that he ends up having to live out his life on the Wall for some reason.
Maybe he just retires up there. He's like, it's 4 square meals a day. Let's go.
There's like 1,000,001 things you could do to be sent to the Wall. Just look at a lord the wrong way and he can send you to the Wall.
And he's the kind of knight who's going to end up in situations where he doesn't know how to be a knight. He could, and beyond that, if he decides, because Marcia said, if you don't want to be a knight when this is over, you don't have to be a knight. That he might actually that might be what he wants in the end. I don't know yet. But
oh my god, Alfred and Rob at the Wall.
They could.
I mean, I'm not saying that's what I'd like, but that would be really fun. We could do Night's Watch campaign next season.
What if?
Yeah, like I said, it's not my goal. But
what if Alfred got pressured? Something happens to Marcia, she can no longer be regent. Maybe she just willingly gives it up, right? and Alfred has got outsider influences pressuring him to become Lord of Greenmont, and he's like, I don't fucking want it, and so he willingly takes the black, like Aegon does. Aemon, sorry.
Ooh, fucking hell.
That's like your one. You can't make me be Lord because I've taken the black.
Suck it. I'm off.
And then the tragic thing is the house becomes Mara's babies.
Yeah, it gets absorbed into Oak.
Well, it would be a
It
Tarly
was,
house
yeah.
then.
No.
It's so true.
It's right.
so
I've sent a
true.
demon after the Tarlies. That's the thing I'm really excited for next session. We're gonna get Mara and Baelor at Highgarden. We know that's happening. We're gonna see some more of Myria. I think you're on the cast call for
Nope.
next session. Oh no, it's the three Wild Amigos. We get the three Wild Amigos, so we get the road trip, but also the black magic. I'm pretty sure we're gonna start seeing it manifest in some way next session. I'm very excited for it.
I'm not. I'm worried. Don, I'm scared.
No,
We'll
it's
be
fine for you
okay.
three. It's Mara that should be scared.
I think Alfred and Rob can run faster than Briar.
Oh, I
'cause he's
actually
wearing
have-
heavy armor.
I actually have the trait of fast, so I'm
good.
very fast.
Yeah, so we're
Very,
good.
I
very
think
fast.
Briar does have some movement drawbacks, so yeah, you can outrun him.
Oh, we will. Don't worry.
I'm waiting for the 2,000-mile snipe shot of Alfred at some point because we got to see him become #1 archer in Westeros.
Number one.
But
I'll make a
think-
persuasion roll to say like, look over there, and then we run. And
Yeah. Keep looking.
Okay, so I think we've devolved into nonsense. So it's time
Oh,
to
I know.
say good night.
Great.
I know my
nonsense.
pie in the sky. Just very quickly, a one-on-one duel with Bloodraven, and I win.
A snipe off.
A snipe off. Because I don't know, Bloodraven, I don't know, gets too close to Marcia, like friggin', and he's just like, fuck no.
Oh,
And then there's a one-on-one.
It'll be like Enemy at the Gates, that movie with
Yeah.
Jim Carrey plays a Russian with an English accent. And he's
Yeah.
there like in the thing going after the German sniper who's Ed
I know.
Harris for some reason. And he's like you take out
Yeah.
And we get that nice Kevin Costner arrow vision.
You get
Prince
sniperly
of Thieves.
X-ray vision.
That's it.
But he just explodes into black feathers, right? Because it's fucking Brynden Rivers and he's not going to
Yeah.
die. He's got more destiny points than the whole of Westeros put together.
Right, but okay, before we keep going, because we could stay up all night talking about this, one last shout out to best lines that we had in the episode was at the end of episode 2 where Alfred was, "We've got to ride."
Yes.
What was it? We have to ride hard or something
Yeah,
like
we've got
that.
to ride hard. But yeah, that has been us for After the Fyre. Please do join us next week for the return of After the Fyre, in which we will have Mara, Rob, Briar, and Alfred. So it'd be Virginia, Don, Tom, and Jason playing, and the three Wamigos and her. We'll see what happens. But that will be at 8 p.m. GMT, which is 4 p.m. EDT currently because of time zone shenanigans. But thank you very much for joining us. If you do want to scream about the juicy fruits, join us on the Discord. Hit that follow, smash that like, ring that bell, and all the good stuff. And we will catch you all next time.
Susie, before you hit that hang up button, a small reminder that everything that happens in this campaign affects my campaign, which is on Mondays, which Susie and Sam are also in. Please come and check that out. It's the Crown Lands. But for real, if they cause War in Dawn is what is happening in my game because we share a world. And things that are happening in the Crown Lands also affect this game. So thank you all very much for being trash fires and joining us for both.
All right. We will see you then. Come join us on Monday then. Monday at 7 p.m. GMT, 3 p.m. Eastern. Catch you later, friends.